Look at that.
We should put our names down on the Facebook.
Sure.
No, you can pick your favorites out.
This one's great.
Okay. There's something for everybody.
That's right.
That's cute.
I don't have my drink tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Dorothea, here you go.
Thank you. Actually, you guys said coasters, I said, oh, I'm missing my drink. Okay, we are,
Can you hand, Dorothea, can you have the gavel down?
What's so good in here? It's celery and cucumber.
I'm gonna get myself my work drink.
Okay, are we getting set here?
hold on.
Okay, everybody, please silence your cell phones if they're on. Dorothea's just setting up the Zoom link. Bear with us.
Yep, we're up and we're running.
We have video?
We have video, you all look gorgeous.
We have ignition. Are we recording?
We're recording,
Oh.
we're live, you're good to go.
I didn't hear the we're recording thing.
She says recording, I did push it. You guys were chatting.
Are we muted? I know, okay.
We're up.
Okay, motion to open the meeting. Is there a second?
A second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Hi.
Motion passes.
Okay, does any board member have anything to disclose or any conflict of interest with any of the agenda items?
I do not.
I do not.
I do not.
I cannot.
I do not. Okay, so with that being said, Dorothea, could you please read the open meeting compliance certification guidelines?
With the board's permission, can I shorten it to a few?
Cliff's notes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if a participant is attending via web conference technology such as Zoom, the clerk will announce how attendees should signal that they wish to come in. This may differ by platform, but is typically accomplished through the raise your hand feature. We are using Zoom. I ask that you either raise your hand if you wish to speak directly to the board. If you would like me to present your board question to the board, please put it in the Q&A. Please don't put it in the chat. I do not read the chat. And also, please give me your name and address, although I do recognize names, I don't always remember where you live. Okay, which is a good thing. Okay. Speakers must give their name, address, and organization. There shall be an exemption for any category for people protected by New York State law. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Let's go.
Okay, thanks so much for that. We open with any comments from the public this evening? Is there anybody online, Dorothea,
We have a couple people online.
who wants to comment, or they're just online?
Right now, they're just online.
Okay, just so we're putting it out there. All right, first up, the building inspector report. Hi, Steve.
Aye.
Everybody has Steve's report? Are there any questions for him?
I just had one. Could you talk a little bit more on the 66 Monroe conversations? I think that you were mentioning, one second, I'll see how you worded it.
Yeah, if I may, met with potential buyer for 66 Monroe for site possibilities, answered FOIL request for the same.
I think that's the Talbot site.
I thought that was real estate, no? The one across the street?
Which one was it? Was it the real estate?
66 is on that side of the road.
Oh,
Talbot side.
okay, Talbot's. Wow. It's a great location. We've got some sun.
Yeah, that's the old real estate building down there.
This is the Talbot site, not the yellow building with the big,
Oh, yeah, all
Columns.
right, yeah, Talbot, it's a new buyer, he's looking at potential options for that, rather than the retail.
Mhm.
He's talking about there might be a possibility for, some sort of an entertainment venue, possibly.
So this is the Talbots?
Yes.
Yeah, for the Talbots.
this is one.
It's still Talbot, so.
It's still currently owned, it hasn't gone for sale, but it's up for sale?
Correct, it's somebody who's looking to purchase.
So it's early days, basically, just some general inquiries is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, He's
Okay.
just doing general inquiries as to what's possible for the zone.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's zoned again, remind me of the zone for that?
I don't remember off the top.
I know, we'd have to look it up.
That's okay.
He can get back to you after the
I can
meeting.
pull it.
We can
That's fine, so that's what
discuss
that
it
was.
together.
And then anything, there was nothing regarding real estate across the street, or was there conversations on that as well?
Actually, I had a call about across the street too, as far as the old real estate building there.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, I had called today inquiring what the zoning was on that, and it's on the OF, but it does allow for residential use in that building.
Mhm.
If it was a multifamily, it would have to come before the board.
On the other side of the street, the 66 is MUEC and in the LWRP overlay.
Yeah, the weird thing in the code in regards to the one across the street, the MUOF, it requires a special permit from the board for multifamily, but you go down the chart, 2 more locations, it says first floor residence, okay, second floor residence, okay, permitted.
What?
Yeah, so it's, the code's a little contradicting, I'm sure Justin can look it up. The code itself says if it was a multi-unit, it should have a special permit, but then you go down 2 more spots in the chart, it says first floor living units permitted, second floor living units permitted.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of contradict each other,
Okay,
I think.
okay, well, that's an action item then,
Yeah.
to take a look at that, make sure that there's,
Steve, the town fell through that?
On my
The
report.
town buying that fell through?
Yeah.
Village Green?
yeah, just to update everybody, the town had actually put in an offer to purchase that building, but it was a contingency offer based on what it would take for the town to bring it up to certain requirements that they have, because they were going to move the town court there. Yeah,
Oh,
and
gotcha, I know. where-
yeah, and so when they received some of the bids back, it was almost $5 million, and so they're like, well, we think we have another option here. So that didn't happen, so it's public knowledge, so I'm just
Actually, a
sharing.
gentleman that owns several properties in the village is looking into it.
Okay, all righty.
I do have an item to discuss if nobody has any other
Okay.
questions. We talk about the back entry here, as been something that's gone back and forth in regards to that grant money. I did a lot of research in looking at the code in regards to the stairs and the validity of that entrance. They meet code based on the age of the building.
Mhm.
The stairs themselves are uniform, they aren't falling apart. We're looking at just dressing them up versus doing a wholesale reconstruction of those stairs, because it is technically a third exit from the basement. It is supposed to only be an emergency use exit.
Right.
One of the things I think we, the village do is issue a letter to downstairs to remind them that it is only an emergency use exit. And if they use it, the responsibility or is on them. It's not our liability, because they meet code, they're
Right.
legal, they're not, we aren't responsible if somebody trips on them.
Well, it's like any stairs that meets code anywhere.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, so the goal then is that, my understanding based on the conversations that we had, that some of the steps in the side staircase here needs to be looked at, because some of the, things are chipped, there may be, to really just
there are hard.
clean it up, make sure everything's in ship shape, paint it out as needed, paint the railings properly, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We need to have grills over the drains that are down there, they're missing a grill here, things like that. So as long as they meet code, it's not a primary form of access in any way, it is only for an emergency situation. So for us to spend $100,000 for maybe it being used, I don't know, I can't justify it for the way we would spend money, and I think we've had these discussions already.
Yeah,
folks,
higher
too,
priority
so.
safety issues on this building than that.
No, but I appreciate you in your capacity, just really taking a look and making sure that it is safe, and there's just a few things that we can do relative to repairs. So with that in mind, we still have a $100,000 grant. Okay, so the grant was given for that purpose, and now for just a whole set of reasons that have been ongoing. It is a continuing saga of years.
Mhm.
I'm going to be meeting with one of our legislators in Albany who has the capacity to help us repurpose that grant money. So we know we have other issues with this building. And so we have a pillar that needs to have repairs. We have wrought iron that needs to be repaired. This is a wonderful old historic building. I'm hopefully going to be meeting with her over the next couple of weeks because they're not in session. So I'll keep you guys informed, because hopefully we can get some of these other needed repairs done on this gorgeous
Great.
property. I know. Fingers crossed, light the candles. So, yeah.
Really quickly on those two items, you had a good idea about writing a letter to the Legion about the proper use of the stairs for emergencies. Would it be appropriate for you to work with Jeff to draft up that letter and send it?
Sure. But I mean, yeah, Jeff can be another set of eyes.
Yeah.
I'd like to
You're right,
extend that by
dot the
us
i's,
from any
Just cover.
liability if they do choose to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause-
Any motion necessary, any disagreement? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just really wanted to comment really quick. The concerns, there was a lot of concerns I had with the back stairs.
Mhm.
Taking a look at over the last couple days, I want to thank Zach. The DPW jumped in and did a lot of concrete repairs where the
Yeah.
area was really bad, where it was a major concern. So I think that makes a total night and day difference with that stair. I still have my concerns, but there's some things that Steve's going to see to be addressed that
Mhm.
will make it absolutely uncomfortable saying we're okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thanks to the DPW. Thanks for jumping in on that. Yeah, I saw the repairs, they look great.
And
Yeah.
if Jeff recommends a response or a signature indemnifying us, it'd be possibly valuable to get.
Yeah,
Beyond just the letter.
yeah, there'll be another set of.
Jeff is our municipal counsel, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
He'll be here shortly.
Yep, 2 minutes. Great, thanks for that, appreciate it. Anything else for Steve?
I did have, and there's an issue with the, I don't think we'll go into executive session, I think there's an issue with another property in the village that needs to be addressed in regards to a commercial use on residential property. And I can send an email to the board
Okay.
separately to discuss it, because I was just made aware of it today.
Yeah, okay, why don't you do that so the board is brought up to speed? That would be helpful. Okay, thanks so much. Next up, DPW. Hi, Zach. Okay, so, any questions for Zach? And Zach, I know you also wanted to talk about, the street trees, because you need to have that motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe we have to have it approved by the board for
The ARPA funds.
to be used for the trees.
Right.
Specifically,
Yep.
$4,000.
I'll just need an amendment from the board to go ahead and authorize us to use $4,000 from the ARPA funds towards the trees that the board agreed that to be designated out of ARPA.
So the way it works, and this because we received ARPA funds, everybody did, pretty much, every municipality. So even though we've already sort of designated a dollar amount, the $4,000 out of the ARPA funds, we don't, we have to make a motion every time we go to use the funds. Okay, so it seems sort of redundant,
It
but
is,
it's
because
the process of how they want the
right,
funds
initially
distributed.
it was our going, okay, we'd like to see the money used on these purposes.
Right.
But now we're near actually saying, okay, we're going to use it.
Right,
So there's a difference. Now we're designating the amendment to the budget to go ahead and for the allowed use of the ARPA.
right, so it's basically how we comply with our distribution or dispensation of the ARPA funds. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the ARPA funds for $4,000 for
$4,000.
trees in the village.
I would like to make that motion. I do have a question for clarification. Did you name a number of how many trees we were able to have for the 4,000? I know it depends on species and size.
Yeah, there are a lot of variables in
Yeah.
that can't really determine until you reach out to
Roughly.
contractors. But 14, I think,
Okay,
should be
We're hoping.
covered within that 4,000 plus the installation. So
Okay,
if not, I mean, it would only be within a couple.
we'll go back. All right, then I will make that motion.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Hooray, more trees.
More trees.
Okay, anything else?
Nobody has any questions, I do have a few things I need to discuss. One of them is with the upkeep of the arboretum. Right now, we're back in there maybe 3 or 4 times a season to mow all the weeds in the meadow, and it is doing damage to our equipment. They're not equipped properly to handle the heavy brush that seems to be going through there. Last year, we plugged and replaced the tires on a 36-inch mower a few times. So we decommissioned that for arboretum use just because of the abuse that it was getting. We're trying something different this year, which was taking a tool cap back with an attachment that's got a 6-foot mower deck on the front of it that's built for cutting down brush.
So that's rented? Is that the one that's
Yeah, we rented
rented?
that. That's $810 for
Oh.
about 2 days worth of work. That's what it cost us this time around. And we're probably going to continue using that, renting that, as we need it for, the mobile back end, which could be.
Because what's been happening is if we use our equipment, it's not strong enough to do that until we end up repairing it?
Yes.
Is that what I'm-
So the problem that happened with just the mower deck attached to the toolcat is the toolcat is tired, and it's going to be the least disruptive tool to the earth as we go back in there. Our tracked skid steer would be more than capable of handling it, but it's going to tear the earth up, and we're going to end up back to where we were with having to reseed every time we go back in there because it's going to turn everything to dirt. So the problem that we had is we blew out a $400 tire on the tool cap because a wire was protruding from the ground and ended up poking through the sidewall of the tire, which can't be plugged or patched. Once that happens, the tire is compromised. So we need to figure out a better method of doing this.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it is yet, honestly, because anything that's wheeled, unless it's a solid rubber tire, which would require us either purchasing a set of wheels and tires specifically for this, which is going to be $4,000 to $5,000, or renting the equipment a few times a year to be able to do it.
And the equipment rental is 800 and something every
That's
time?
for the deck.
Oh, just the- okay.
Yeah, for the piece of equipment that would come with the wheels, the proper wheels on it. I think that's $1,200 for 2 or 3 days use. I'd have to.
In addition to the
In addition
attachment?
to the attachment, yes.
So Zach, do you see this as a 1 or 2 time thing, or is this something that
2 or 3
we have
times a year, have to go back there to that. Yeah.
every year?
Yeah.
Forever?
Well, until the metal's gone or replaced with something else. It's, the scrub that's growing up through there, a lot of it's thick, the trunk on it. And once it's cut down, it's a short, sharp stick sticking out of the ground. The tires that we have, they're rated for 4,900 pounds a piece. They're strong. And, but it's not just that, it's also like a piece of wire that was the diameter of a pencil sticking up out of the ground that caught the tire this time.
If that risk wasn't there, do we have equipment that could do it?
The tracked skid steer that we have would be more than capable, but it shreds the ground to the point where we would probably have to do soil
If you
remediation.
disturb the plantings?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one thing to think about is, could we task volunteers, to the extent that we have any, to do metal detecting, and then mark with little flags where there may be metal, and then we can either abate it, or go around it?
I mean, that might help with any metal, but, again, the stalks of the scrub that we're cutting up on there still is a problem as well.
How frequently would you have to cut so that you don't get the tree?
Kind of depends. Some of it's still the Alanthus, which, still grows regardless, and you cut that, and it's a 2.5-inch stalk that's 1 inch in diameter. It's got a sharp, side on it.
It's like a stake.
Tilt on the deck, so it's a spear, more or less, so, it's hard to say. I mean, we could always grub it and then try again, but that's.
Hang on a second, Justin.
I think some of the stuff that we're talking about for that area, which is basically just overseeding with things that won't grow stalks as much that would puncture the tires would take care of that problem naturally, where you just go back in there with a regular vehicle and brush hog attachment or something and mow it down without puncturing so much. And maybe expediting some of that overseeding with milkweed or whatever else would kind of naturally take care of some of this. But I guess we can talk about that.
If it outgrew the other thicker stuff that's growing.
Yeah.
Well, it won't, the Ailanthus will outcompete everything.
Yeah. that's
So
the
until the
problem.
Ailanthus is eradicated, you wouldn't be able, you're right with the overseeding, 100%.
Yeah.
But what we're dealing with, what happened is the invasives were always there.
Yeah.
And so what you're dealing with, this is one of my takeaway, is that you're dealing with the repeated cutting of invasives that are entrenched in that site. Because you're absolutely right, the overseeding should help. So it's really about the eradication of those invasives. So you can get in there and do, as you say, properly.
And that's, again, the Ailanthus are only a part of it, because it's
Right.
hard to tell what's actually growing in there because it's cut before, you can get an identification.
Well, why don't we do this? Because, I mean, it's important, so, but I think we should probably take it offline, maybe, we can all talk and come up with some other possibilities.
We've got
And
a
I think
couple months before we're going to be back in there.
Yeah, exactly, so we have a little bit of time here to kind of maybe figure out the next round, yeah.
Can I also request that you look at whatever measures you're taking and what directly is going to be Arboretum, because we don't have any funds in the Arboretum line.
Yeah,
We do have some ARPA money that's designated for Arboretum.
okay,
Maybe that could be a solution.
use that piece.
But right now, any equipment, rentals, anything that's directed to the Arboretum, there is no budget. So this brings up where I'd be negative in the budget
Right,
already. So
Okay.
I just want that to be part of the discussion, how it's going to be funded to take care of these needs.
okay, but at least we've all had that discussion of setting aside some of the ARPA funds for this.
Yes, but I think we originally earmarked them specifically for Ailanthus removal. And we were waiting for invasive.
Invasive.
It was
In general,
invasive and
invasive.
for planning of the area, so
Right,
maybe,
we plan.
Site plan,
since we really didn't get to the site issues,
Mhm.
maybe we can use this towards the site issues.
And I do want to just comment on the budget and how the budget was drafted. We do have money going into reserves, and we need to instruct Jeff to write those reserves and create those reserves to give the mechanism by which we pull money out, right? So it's not that the money may not be able to go towards the Arboretum, it's simply that we have to have a language that will allow it to come out of the reserves in what would likely be a Parks and Recreation or some sort of bucket, right? So that's one of the things that maybe when Jeff's here later in member items, we can just talk about getting him to work on the language for the reserves.
yeah, he was directed actually by the previous board as well, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ongoing, yeah.
You got to get it written.
Yeah, a few moving parts on this, yeah, Steve?
Well, while we're talking about the Arboretum, it just reminded me of something that we actually talked about. We've gotten an email from the group to do work up there. They talk about marking trees for removal. Do we need any kind of plan? Is there any kind of plan? What are they marking, what are they removing? That was the other thing we talked about, bringing up, I just remembered.
Some type of a site plan and an action
Yeah,
plan,
I mean-
because I know they were going to be trying to work with PRISM, which is, PRISM is it's an acronym, Partnership for Removal of Invasive
Yeah, is
Species.
it only invasives?
Yeah.
That's what I queried, and I didn't get an answer.
Okay, yeah, Justin.
I did update the board about that at the last meeting. It was probably very late at member items or something, but I had spoken with Mr. Wick about that, and he had intended to mark, I can't remember the number now, maybe about a dozen or 20 invasive Ailanthus
And
trees.
they were the invasives, okay,
Yeah, and
that
there
would make
was
sense.
there was no removal. The only, if there was removal, it was just basic weeding. It wasn't cutting down anything large.
They wouldn't be cutting down an Ailanthus, I'll tell you right
Right.
now, because there's a specific process of,
Why not?
it's a, oh, yeah,
Like I
Nobody
said,
should be cutting anything back there.
no,
yeah, that was the
Weeding,
email I
yes.
queried, and I got a kind of a cryptic little answer that didn't address my actual question.
okay, but that's helpful, they're
Okay.
tagging the invasives.
Yeah, if there's anything I can help with in clarifying or talking to them, happy to follow up.
Okay, then maybe we
And
can.
identifying 12 Ailanthus trees, there's a grove.
We'll bring
They're the
big
12
ones.
biggest ones. For anybody who doesn't know, an Ailanthus tree also has a common name called tree of heaven, and it's anything but heaven. It is one of the worst invasive species that has absolutely invaded much of Monroe County. And we're kind of the poster child for invasive species. It's like 70% invasives in Monroe County. They're very difficult to get rid of. So, yeah, anything else for us?
Yes, just something to go along the park section of my report. We did have to remove and repair a park bench at Lincoln in South Main. The leg was actually snapped off, so we brought it over to Hawk Frame and Axle, who was able to weld cast iron for us, and it cost $450. So
Cost
just
how
to
much?
go $450. So they welded it,
Wow.
sandblasted, they cleaned it up for us, so we were able to put fresh paint on it.
Mhm.
Just to go along with the bench program, I know that's going to be
Yeah.
a topic of discussion is, the maintenance of it. When something breaks like that, we are unable to do that in-house, so there is a
Mhm.
pretty large fee to make that goes on for repair.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
And then one other thing is, I finished up my CEO, the code enforcement officer training, and I did get my certificate. So,
Congratulations, thank you. That was a lot of training,
yeah.
a lot of weeks, thank you. That's great. And you have a good mentor. Yeah, that's awesome. And you did very well on your tests.
For the most part.
Yeah. Great, anything else?
No, that's all.
No fees, none. He also is requesting approval to go to a training seminar for the payment.
Oh,
You did one, you just forgot.
I forgot.
you forgot? Okay.
Wrong
So what is this, is this the,
This is for asphalt. Does it say on there?
is it the Cornell one?
It's low volume roads pavement design engineering for, what does it say, select road standards, determining geometric design.
Hey,
There's a lot of things. It was in the packet.
It's really the more engineering side of
Yeah.
roads and paving methods and procedures and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and planning. It does have professional development hours that go along with it. Just figured it'd be something.
Yeah.
You
well, considering all the road work we need to have done, so it's fortuitous.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of work here,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
The
So
training
this is
that we
helpful
get
to-
It's helpful for me to keep current.
Okay, so what are we looking at, Dorothea?
So 75 per person and 24 credits, so $95.
Plus mileage, I imagine?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just Zach is going, or? anybody
Just Zach.
else? Okay, that's
Where is it, Zach?
Opinion.
Pena.
Oh, I love Pena.
Are you just going for the day or you have to stay overnight?
Probably just go for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts at 8:30, it's over at 3:30.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the cost for the training and associated expenses as discussed.
My second?
For the superintendent of DPW. Yes. Okay. And we have a second from Lisa. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All righty. Let's see, next up, treasurer's report.
Yes. Usually this is where the board says, can we skip you? Go on to the other items, so. Throwing it out there in case.
Well, are there any questions? I mean,
Well, we have the bill pay, that's first.
Yeah. So,
Is there any questions on the bill pay? You have two, one's our last bill pay for last budget year, the other one is for the current budget year.
yeah, we close out our budget year at the end of May and start our
Yeah, it
new
takes-
fiscal year.
Takes a little bit to get all the final
Yeah.
bills in.
These are the two in the attachments sent by Brooklyn a day or two ago.
Yes, and then I put it in the packet
Yeah.
with the update yesterday.
I'll make a motion to approve the, can I do both at once?
Yeah.
Or to approve the bill pays as submitted.
Is there a second, please?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Okay.
Oh, okay, back for discussion?
Sorry, just one quick question.
Sure.
Item 55 on the page 2 of 4, WB Mason 1646, is that an annual charge or a quarterly charge? 1646.
Oh, that's, oh.
Where are you getting it?
That's an update. I'm going to flag that.
Because I don't think that's Mason.
It shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be Mason. That wouldn't be Mason. I think he's got
I
it
think you
wrong.
might have entered the
I
wrong
think he's
line.
got the wrong vendor. My guess is it was either the credit card for Zoom
Oh,
or it was Williamson Law Book related to
right.
the software, your annual maintenance fee.
Mhm.
I can't without going and pulling the bill to verify.
Do you want to amend the motion then to approve everything but that? How do you want to do that?
It's saying building code software, so it's making me think
So you're
it's
thinking
general
it's-
code.
It is, okay.
So I'm going to say the vendor is wrong on that, and thank you for bringing
So just to
that.
amend the line then,
Yeah.
but the fund can be,
Yeah,
are you
the
good
funds,
with that?
if
You
it's,
see where we're going?
if it's the
There's a
building
mistake
and
in
software,
Kingsbury.
it wouldn't be WB Mason, we don't spend $1,600 out of pocket.
And it's not Zoom or Adobe, that's on line 58.
All right, then it should be general code.
General code.
If
Okay,
it's building and codes, it's definitely related to Zoom software,
okay, is that,
annual.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
with regards to item 58, the first bank card, Zoom and Adobe, that's the total annual cost for Zoom and Adobe?
Zoom,
Are we paying,
we pay, it's like $1,800 annual for
Okay.
Zoom. We actually, with the CMB card, we received $500 back because we had so many points, so we were able to apply it towards it, that helped. But yeah, that is an annual cost, so is Adobe is monthly. It's very frustrating that a lot of the softwares and everything now we use has a monthly fee, and you can't get away from that.
yes, that's
Yeah.
the way to go. If you're
Yeah.
a software company. So, all right, so that there is the annual Zoom and the monthly Adobe pool.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
no problem.
I'm okay to amend the motion to correct the titling of 55 and just simply ask Dorothea to come back if it's anything different.
I will do that,
That should be fine.
absolutely.
Amended for trustee Marshall's suggestion.
Okay, all right.
Second, if you need to do, or is already.
All right, second, I can keep it.
There we go. Okay, roll call. You have the second, you have everything?
I got it in my head.
Okay, roll
We
call,
won't find
please.
it again, but I got it. All right, trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, that's next.
Next for me is financials. So this should be the year-end financials, pending any of our accountants' review. In case there might be a journal entry, the numbers should be solid. I had sent out 2 sets. The first one went out last Friday. I was waiting on a number from Monroe County that was 10 days late. They finally got it to me yesterday at 1 o'clock. Which was a revenue number. So the numbers only changed even further to the good. Best way to explain it. Not too many surprises in the budget. It landed pretty much where I anticipated. We had a new thing on the budget you'll see with the encumbrances. That is items we purchased such as the fire damage. We issued out the POs. There's the chair, and there's a bunch of small things. So I think it's around 66,000 without looking at the exact number. So that'll carry over into the next budget year. As the board approved, we did end up using a little bit of fund balance to help cover the chair, so we were able to cover some of it within the current budget. It looks like an overall addition to our fund balance, which is what we want. Our revenues came in higher than anticipated, mostly driven by sales tax. We did have a couple numbers that underfunded, but not terribly. So overall, I'm happy with the way the budget is ending.
Yeah,
So I don't
the only
see
kicker
any-
was the chair, because we
Yeah, the
had
chair
wanted
makes,
to
the
replace.
chair makes, look, but it's exactly what we
Yeah.
anticipated, and as the board can see, I shifted every number for the
Mhm.
budget transfers to
Sure.
get to the negative, which I can't. So,
And just for those of you listening, when we're talking about the chair, it is the chair that allows handicap access to go downstairs, and it's attached to the railing. So we had to replace it. It was a safety measure.
yeah, it was an unbudgeted expense, and had to find a way to take care of it. So, having said all that, I just need the May financials approved, and then the budget transfers as requested, and there's quite a few. Sewer, I'll touch on sewer very quickly. I seem to leave sewer out because sewer is a very quiet fund. Again, it funded as anticipated. It will add to its surplus as well. There was a minor budget change with that. A lot of this, just real quick, I'll touch on a lot of the salary, which you'll see my neg
negative is because of the way the last payroll of the year landed.
Oh, yeah.
Most of that payroll ended up in last budget year, so I have to actually break that portion of last budget year and charge it to the equipment. So it kind of set things negative. So instead of 26 payrolls, we probably had almost 27 payrolls. So that's why you're seeing.
It's just reflected that way?
Yep.
Okay.
So nothing outrageous, everything was able to be covered
Mhm.
except for, as anticipated, the chair.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there a
Any
motion?
questions?
Okay, we can do a motion and bring it back, or if you have a
Yeah,
question, either way. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to start to approve the May financials as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lickett.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Hey, what about me?
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
I was just so happy to get 4.
She was like, she was on it.
She already had a majority, she was good, right.
Okay, budget transfers, and
Is
as
there a
I
motion?
kind of
Yeah.
informed the board, every number was open for
Mhm.
grabs. So
Yeah.
I shifted every penny except what ended up
Mhm.
being what was needed for fund balance for the chair.
Is there a motion to approve the transfers? Anybody?
Just,
Okay.
I have them in front of me.
3 pages.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second, please?
Oh, sorry, I'll have a discussion.
Almost motion?
Yeah, in motion to approve.
All right, I'll second.
second, and then back.
Discussion.
Yep.
Discussion. So just going to the transfers again, one of the big challenges with transfers is it does create for, in end of the year, rather confusing, how did we do on our budget, right, if we look back on it. So as we think about the budget moving forward, if you could just explain the best way that we've discussed or that you see in having less transfers as we move forward.
This year would have been very difficult because we had big tickets in there, the fire, the ARPA funds, using it, and the way it goes into the budget, because it has a 0 budget amount, so I have to shift funds just with the overall budget. It's reflective of the way it's set up in the budget. So you got to find, the revenue comes in and it helps on the overall end, which covers the expenditure, but you got to shift the lines. That is a question I have for the accountant. Is there a better way of handling that so it doesn't create such a negative on that? Because if you notice, the big negatives is coming from the chair, which we agreed to use fund balance, the fire, which was 40,000, and then we had the Rain Creek project. So that was 18 or 17 something when it came. when it was done.
Something.
You'll see less this year, I would say, with budget transfers because of the way we pass the budget. So if it's within the clerk section, I can move dollars a little bit here and there. If it's a major transfer out of that section, I would have to come to the board. So it'd be a lot cleaner. Staying within budget is always the best way, and I try my best to forecast out so we don't have as many. But this year, I think is an exception just because of those big tickets. So, I think last year my transfers were around 63. I think overall, you're looking at 1.8 in a budget. So transferring, I think I moved 150,000 around this year. That's
So on a percentage
very minor
basis.
percentage.
Yeah.
So we're pretty close to hitting our numbers. It's the unexpected, like the Parks and Rec with the big PGA that blew that line
Yeah.
for labor,
Yeah,
even though,
It was a big deal.
not knowing what's happening in the DPW always, I don't know where the labor dollars are there. And when we budgeted the original amount, we thought, this is pretty standard. So it is a lot of sitting there looking at the financials when they're done and going, okay.
and you can't put a line item in for a fire.
No,
Yeah.
you can't anticipate a lot of things.
So the next question that I'll have is, do we have, if I were to ask, in years past, the ability to look at the budget as presented and adopted and the final budget and look at the two? And we can go back and we can grab
We
that.
can retrieve that, absolutely.
And we're always using the budget as expended. as the model for what we're looking at.
When I
next
look
year.
at the new next year, I'm going to look at that budget, and I'm going to take into consideration like Parks and Rec. When I talk to Zach, I'm going to say, okay, we're not going to need this much money and labor for Parks and Rec. This was a one-off.
Mhm.
So you take a few years is basically what you
And
should do.
what was the, when we were at Nikon, what was it, dynamic budget?
Yeah, there's, and I need to spend some more time when I have a chance. There's a different way of doing
Right.
dynamic budgeting where you look at where your revenues are actually going to specific line items,
Mhm.
like certain revenues coming in apply to, like, you're stealing from, let's say your reserve is funding the truck, what outside of the reserve is coming from the actual tax base. It's a different way of looking at the budget, and the state comptrollers are trying to move us towards that. That is something they're looking at. Like sales tax would be, we'd say that would apply to maybe clerks in this area, DPW. It's just a different way of looking at it. And really honestly, I wish I could give the presentation that they did last year when they started the rollout. And I think it's something that I'm going to toy with next year's budget, but I really want to make sure before we step that way, I have a solid foundation to step on with it, because I don't want to start something and then I throw our numbers into a tizzy. You know, what we use works, you know.
If you could, just in terms of the training information that you may receive on some of this stuff, it may be useful for us if we have any interest to participate. And I don't, that might be on a private pay basis or a publicly funded basis, but just to know when these events may be, if they're
Sure.
online.
Matter of fact, I
You
just
send
sent
out the
out
bulletins,
something.
you get the bulletins.
I
from
just
her. You can
actually sent
sign up.
something out with a multi-year planning and
Yeah.
other things.
I signed up for the planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of those are free and some are charges, and actually the village does fund
Mhm.
where the
And
trustees
it's,
do attend
and the
conferences.
charges are nominal, and it's such a great investment, really.
Yeah.
To take those courses, they're really helpful.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yep. Okay, where were we? We had a motion and a
Yeah.
second. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Thank you. Aye.
Motion passes. There's an additional item in there. It's the Bernie Donegan.
Mhm.
No, it's
And
MMD.
then Andy.
It's our accountant
Mhm.
for him to do the year end. He does the AUD, the annual update document. We provide all the paperwork for him. And it's always great to have him go back through the numbers.
Can you tell everybody what an AUD, an annual update document is? Because we throw
And
out
I'm using
acronyms.
old verbiage because
Yeah,
they changed
they
it.
changed it.
They just changed it, and then it's the annual update document. Every municipality in Monroe County has to submit to the state comptroller what your budget did for the year. So they take a look, and let's say we had several years where we went over budget. We just
You blew it.
malfunctioning. It kind of it can trigger audits. It also goes on Open New York, so you can look at our books. So it's all part of the final process of the year end, so the public can
Yeah.
see exactly what we did.
Right.
And
It's a way of accounting for expenditure of taxpayer funds.
So since there's steps in there, and our accountant is the best person really to take a look at those numbers and make recommendations to me if he sees something he wants me to check out and fix.
Final set of eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just best practice.
Mhm.
So if I can have authorization to sign that engagement letter with him.
I'll make a motion that we sign the authorization for the engagement letter, not to exceed 2950.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall? Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes. Real quick. I just got to keep talking.
I know, you're on a roll.
Updates for the village hall. Carpet is coming in, and I'm going to ask the board if they would kindly move their August 8th meeting to August 15th.
We have an installation of
You're
it.
installing the carpet August
Yeah, check your
7th through the
calendars.
9th, and I need a space to put furniture.
Yeah. Just so people know, we're going to be closing Village Hall to the public for roughly a week or so.
Yeah.
To have repairs made, we're getting carpeting, we're painting, things like that.
Recabling.
We'll
So-
still be conducting business, but you just won't be able to come into the building because it's going to be under renovation, so.
Just for safety. I will note, due to these changes, and I have questions from the public I missed, I apologize, I will get you.
Everybody checking calendars?
Is
Okay.
it the 17th?
15th.
15th, the following
Tuesday,
Tuesday?
following
If the board's
Tuesday.
okay with moving that?
Oh,
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Monday.
Oh, Tuesday, whatever it is.
Okay.
That's the 15th. It's
Do you want from the
15th?
8th to the 15th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
one week
fine.
I'm okay
later.
with that.
I'm okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Okay, we're in the zone.
Thank you so much, that'll just make it easier for the schedule.
Yeah, thank you.
I
That
really
really
need this
helps.
But anyway, with the cabling going down, we might be out of phone or we might be out of internet for periods of time as they reestablish all the lines.
Right, and we'll be sending out postings as things progress. So, you guys everybody's updated on where
And
we
then once
are.
we're all done, we should have a reopening party.
Yeah, we're gonna have a grand reopening.
Yes, we'll be so spiffy.
I know.
Okay, and we did have a question from Art Pierce regarding the budget, and I apologize, Art, I was so too busy talking and not looking at my screen. Sorry. He didn't put the question, he just said a question or two on the budget. So I don't know what the question
Oh, well,
was.
he can call, just Art call in tomorrow or something, just if he has a
Yes,
question.
sir.
or
If-
Send us
if
an
it's
email or
easier, just
something.
Call me tomorrow, I'll be
Yeah.
happy to answer any questions related to the
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have for the board.
Really?
Any questions for the board for me?
No, thanks for all your good work. I mean, I know it's a lot of moving parts to close out one year, start the next, so.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. I'm just thinking in the interest of time, because I know we have people waiting on applications and things. Why don't we move the minutes,
Yes.
Okay, folks. And I'll move just the ramp place. That was just an updated discussion. I just want to fill people in on, so we can do that after the non-municipals. Okay? All right, so then next up, review of non-municipal applications. First one up is Turn the Town Teal.
I'm going to say they're not here, because I
I'm gonna
usually
say that.
represent them. This is a application that has come every year. I think it's the whole month of September. They like to put the teal ribbons around the trees and the poles for the month.
Yeah.
And we have the DPW supervise while they put them out to make sure they're safe and not getting in trouble with the road and traffic.
So I have a couple questions. I've seen that go up, obviously, as I was on the board. It seems to me, and I haven't really looked into it, but it seems like those stay up for a long time and they don't come down exactly on the 30th or around there. Is it their responsibility to take those down, or are we taking them down?
They're responsible.
No,
Good, okay. And then the other question, and this is going to come up because we've got the breast cancer walk coming the weekend after. I'm just wondering, do they need to have them up for a whole month? Could they have them up for 3 weeks, take them down, and let the breast cancer people? I mean, not that they're going to put ribbons up, but I mean, is that a problem? I'm just kind of thinking.
I can ask the person. It's supposedly the month of September is designated for, I believe it's colon cancer.
Yes, ovarian cancer.
Ovarian.
Or ovarian.
Ovarian cancer, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
We just have another event coming that weekend right after the walk, and I don't know, it sometimes gets a little sloppy after they're there for a long time. The ribbons are unraveled, they're hanging off the trees. By the time the end of the month comes, it just, to me, it looks this.
I could ask them if they could have them down before the walk.
Whatever, yeah, that would be great. I think it just would be, give everybody a chance to,
Little breather.
yeah.
Little segue. Zach, yeah?
Yeah, no, Lisa brought up a great point, actually. So being up for 30 days, sometimes they do become a bit messy. So there'd be some requirement for, once a week going through and making sure everything is tidy.
That there should be some oversight from the group. That could be in the
Make that
motion.
part of the motion.
Yeah, that could be definitely in the motion.
And then again, if we can ask them if they would take it down before that weekend walk, that would be another
I
request
will,
for us.
I will just say that's part of the condition.
Okay. I mean, unless somebody else does.
So it would be for what, 3 weeks, not 4?
I would say that the
Yeah,
ribbons
3.5.
come down right
Hang on.
before the walk.
Well, hang on, there's 2 different,
The walk is this Saturday, right before the 30th, they're taking it down. So they would take it down probably more 3 weeks instead of 4, yes,
Yes, I would have them take it down by September 23rd.
instead of 30th.
okay, so that would be in the motion.
Yes.
Okay, just so we're all clear. Okay. Any further discussion, or is there a motion with the amendments?
Make a motion to allow the Town Teal with those amendments that we had discussed. Go ahead, second.
That was a really easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Got through that one.
I learned it from Jeff.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
Okay, roll call.
trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
trustee Lanfair,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Marshall,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes.
Okay, next up, the non-municipal application for the Embrace Your Sisters Walk.
And I'm going to guess I'm here to represent them as well. Actually, I think they haven't been to us in the last couple of years.
I don't think so
Am I
either.
right?
Yes.
Yes, they were a yearly event. They usually walk on Sundays. And the request from the board, they're walking Saturday, I guess this is what I'm hearing. Used to be
I remember it
Sunday.
was Sundays
It was
because there was
Sunday.
some discussion regarding
Right.
when they were passing the churches, if there was a lot of chatter from the group as they walked.
Be respectful.
Right.
But if they're walking on Saturday, I don't think it's an issue this time.
No, it's not.
But this has always been an event with
It is.
very little
Mhm.
issue.
a good one.
Concern.
Okay, any questions about this, or I'll entertain a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the Embrace Your Sisters Walk. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have a second? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Lanfair,
Aye.
trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes.
Okay, next up, the 2023 Harvest Moon Festival.
Just so the board knows, I sent out the application today, and I apologize, there was a problem when I put the application originally in the packet. Something was funky with the application, so it didn't stay in. But we have representatives here to speak to this event, since
Do you want to?
it's a first time for us.
Want to come up and say hello, and, oh, we need another chair, well, we can pull those chairs around, right on the end here.
Would you like us all to come right up to?
Yeah, come on up, have a seat, yeah. We don't bite, not usually.
Oh, we have,
Oh, grab another chair, just pull another chair up for yourself, you bet.
Hi, hello, my name is Bill Benschneider. I'm here with Raj Petty and Danielle Sowers. We are board members and members of APAPA, our local chapter. APAPA is the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan civics engagement group. Our mission is advancing Asian Pacific Islanders through through leadership and civic engagement. So we take the definition of civic engagement quite broadly and looking at it in terms of some of our flagship programs nationally, because we're also a national organization that includes an internship program and also a K through 12 education initiative, as well as cultural awareness and so forth. And so we were looking at introducing the community to some of the contributions of our Asian businesses and cultural contributions, as well as opening up for, so I am demonstrably not Asian, obviously, and because we wanted our group to be as inclusive as possible. And so we are looking to set aside Saturday, September 23rd, for a day-long festival. We're looking at the hours between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. And
I had 12 to 8.
12 to 8.
Is it 10?
Yeah, it's 12 to 8.
Okay.
The exact timings are to be determined, but it's 12 to 8 at this point. Yeah. This is sort of our first go around. So it's basically a festival with an Asian slant to it, and that's about it. But it's inclusive. It's like positively fits. But my name is Raj Petty. I live in 2 Rustic Pines over at Pittsburgh, just outside the village. So the whole idea is, hey, let's just get together. We'll bring some cultural influences from across Asia, Europe, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The organization says APAPA, but we very much want it to be sort of a cross-culturally conscientious organization. That's the whole thing. The core aim, like Bill said, is to sort of focus on the next generation being more participative in civics than not, and so therefore it's to get them to engage. So that part of that engagement involves music, it involves food, it involves just sort of getting together, and that's sort of the premise behind the Moon Festival.
So you have it at the Flower Mill parking lot, is that the
It's
location?
actually, yes. So I have an office at the Green Tower,
Okay,
So the parking lot, so I asked Alan, who's the owner of the place, and said, hey, could we have a parking lot over the
With
weekend?
Todd.
And it was enough for us to be able to sort of manage the crowd and, handle, it's a small event, we don't know how big it's gonna be, but we anticipate it to be a relatively small event. So we wanted it to have minimum interruption to people outside. And
So it's just really within the confines of the
It's
lot.
really within the parking
That's
lot.
kind of a great lot, too. It's a great place to have it.
Yeah.
and then as far as food goes, are you having food trucks, are you having people bring food in?
Yeah, so
How-
we reached out, to some of the food truck vendors, so mostly it'll be food trucks, but I suspect there'll be people who cook up their local fare too. So.
Like we'll have maybe restaurants with small offerings from their menus just in like a stall if they don't have a truck.
So it's prepared food?
Yes,
from
nobody comes in
licensed-
any-
Okay,
Yeah, prepared food.
Yeah, because there's a health code thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as far as insurance goes, do we have to worry about that? I mean,
We've
is that
got insurance.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
good.
Yeah, so the parent chapter is out of California, and they've been around for about 2 decades now. So we are a sub-chapter under them. So we bought it to upstate New York because they're all around the country.
So it's a rider on their insurance?
Yeah, it's a right actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, again, you guys have to help guide me. So do we need to know exactly how many food trucks they're having? Because we can't just generally approve, yeah, you'll have a bunch of food trucks, because,
We can do that. As
I mean,
we
how
know
do we-
more, we can provide an update to.
well,
And you'd want to work with, here, Steve's handing you his card,
Yeah.
okay? He's our code enforcement officer, so.
And stuff.
Actually,
Yes, Dorothy.
if I can jump in really quick, when we approved candlelight night,
Yeah.
same kind of idea with festival, we never asked for a count of food trucks or any of that information.
We never do.
As long as it's handled within the confines of the festival.
okay.
Right, and also Steve would be able to give you guidance on,
Sure. Yep.
capacity, things like that, and,
Yeah.
so.
Will there be alcohol there?
Yes, there would be. It's like any other festival, so we would have. So
So
at
you
the
have
moment, we
to,
would
you have to get a temporary
There would be a-
license.
Yeah, that's through the liquor
The
authority.
ABC.
They
We
issue.
don't, we have
So we don't have to worry
nothing.
about that either?
We don't worry about that.
That
We
makes all my questions easy,
we
right?
can't touch alcohol.
Right, I know we can't, but if we're approving it, then we approve it with a knowledge base that alcohol's there? I mean,
Yeah, hang on, hang on.
No, no.
Here, listen.
It's totally up to the liquor authority. And we have nothing, I mean, it's like if we allow a restaurant, we have nothing to do with the menu, whether or not liquor is being served or wine and beer.
Right.
It's all up to the liquor authority.
So this approval going forward is just approving the festival. It's not like allowing all the things that they are bringing in. It's not under our jurisdiction kind of to limit anything? Okay.
Nope.
As long as
People
we-
inspect the trucks and,
Well, our
make sure
our building
the tents are
inspector.
inspects.
Okay.
He'll inspect tents and they'll do all that stuff, but
Yep,
We're limiting it to an area.
it's confined. Not, in other words, you wouldn't have people taking alcohol out of the area.
Correct. No, you can't.
Everything
Yeah, we
would be
wouldn't do
confined
that.
within the area. That would be important.
Which is why we had it in the parking lot. So
It's a great, I mean, it's perfect for that, really, yeah.
Sounds like a great event. Thank you for coming in and talking to us about it. One thing that I noticed on the application is that you mentioned the Pittsford Library, and that's not village property, so you might want to just check that with the town.
That might be-
We can't really give you information.
I don't know.
That's fine, just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, good one, yeah. It's in
Right down the
our
street.
village, but it's owned by the town.
So I guess the other thing, again, I'm learning, you guys, so.
Hey, no problem. So are we. So-
Okay, good.
We live
Yeah,
together.
perfect. So when they've given us the time from 10, or from 12 to 8 or whatever, when we approve it, it has to end at 8, is that how this works?
they should be ending at 8 and
Okay.
coming up,
So that is something that we would put in the motion.
because they've given us the hours of operation.
Okay. Sounds great.
It does sound great.
No pressure.
Yeah,
No
It's only
pressure.
2 months.
yeah.
Thanks for bringing it into our
Yeah,
village,
thank
it's
you.
wonderful. Yeah. Okay, any other questions, or is there a motion? Somebody?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to
Right language.
approve the non-municipal use permit application as submitted. And it seems we do not need a 45-day waiver.
I think we're safe,
Yeah, we're outside the 45-day waiver.
which is so unusual.
Okay, we have a motion on the
Have a
floor.
second?
We have a second from Lily. Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall? Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Hi. Great, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for organizing this and putting this together. We'll see you at the festival.
Yes.
Okay, next up, Copperleaf Brewing.
I guess I'm Copperleaf Brewing.
Right there?
Yeah, and the other one doesn't.
No, I'm Copperleaf.
Okay, you're Copperleaf, okay.
I'm part of so many organizations in Pittsburgh.
I know, you
I
are,
love it.
you're a total.
It looks like Copperleaf is looking to do another event like they've held. I think they've had 2 or 3 applications with us this summer.
They're on a roll.
They are on
Having
a
a good
roll.
time over there.
And I spoke to Steve and I've asked him if they can try to forecast all the events and put it into one non-municipal that would be
Yeah.
great next year.
Maybe for the next
That
season.
way.
Right.
I do have a question about that. May I ask? I know that we have spoken before about, what do I call it, the time after time after time, so that it appears as it's a way of doing business, is to actually have, let's call it monthly special events, and that is the way that they're operating their business. If we might want to look at that, because it's different than the original application for what was approved as use for that piece of property, an agricultural use. So, not that I object to them having events, it's rather turning into a monthly, almost a way of doing business, a way of conducting their business. I just think it's worthy of discussion. I'm fine with approving their usage for this. Is the same as their others that they've had, but I think it's worthy of discussion because of the interest of the State Street residents who have expressed concern.
Did we have complaints about these events?
There's never been one complaint in regards to it, and I talked to them extensively about this. The issue with that is they're struggling. Based on the regulations and new climate and economy, they're struggling. They have limited windows to have an event like this, while the weather's nice. So, he's trying to figure out ways to stay afloat, and be profitable. So, as I said, there's never been one complaint call in regards to the events that have been down in Northfield yet. So,
I mean, I see it as a way of promoting his business, I guess, to, during the season, just that, like Lot 32, they have the music playing out by the pavilion, that,
yeah.
because that's the.
They said there's a very limited weather opportunity to have events like this within the village, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
May I suggest if things have worked out great and next year comes up, maybe it might be necessary for him to amend his special permit to
Doesn't have a
allow.
special permit.
He doesn't have a special permit, no.
Then I
He's
have
out,
no-
he's a,
Yeah, it's a little bit different, so it's a way of doing business.
no, I knew where you were going with that, but it's not the, yeah, Steve.
What I have asked, because this one just popped up again, what we have asked of them is next year that we have a complete list of any events that they plan for the year. So you can look at it as one shot and then make a decision versus them coming in a month and also another month, So we have asked them to provide us a list with possible events that they wish to have.
Yeah, perhaps this season they're sort of feeling their way through it
Exactly,
too.
that's what I thought.
That's
They
what I'm
probably
thinking.
figured that they've been successful, and they're like, oh, this
Yeah.
worked out really well, let's continue
Yeah,
going.
they're
So they're
seeing that
probably
it's
feeling it out.
supporting their business. Yeah.
And there may be other businesses as well that wish to have also an event. So I'm just trying to anticipate a little bit the way they're going to operate going forward and how it affects the businesses around them as well.
Well, I know a couple of weeks ago, they had the Craft Fest down there.
Yes.
That was very successful. Yeah, everybody loved it.
A lot of good comments.
Yeah.
Actually, no negative.
It's really good, very well organized.
Yeah.
Dorothea, is anybody online about that? Because I'm wondering if any of our State Street residents have been,
There's
comments?
nothing.
Okay,
No Q&A.
Okay.
all right. Yeah, Jeff.
They're a pre-existing non-conforming use down there.
Mhm.
So to Lily's point,
Yeah,
if it becomes a regular course of doing business, they're expanding their pre-existing non-conforming use.
so we should maybe at some point circle back on that,
See what,
Yeah.
So I have a question. So obviously Copperleaf is organizing this. Any one of those property owners or tenants could organize the same event and simply ask Copperleaf to provide the beverages for that event. It happens to be they're doing it, which brings into question, is this just an expansion of it? But you had no complaints from any of the other tenants. This is positive for the space and traffic along that. So, I don't know, I think unless we are finding specific residential concern from the 12 to 6 o'clock time period or other tenants, that would be up more to the property owner than to us.
Yeah, they're very cognizant that the event they run is on the other side of the building, away from the residents out on State Street. They don't do anything on the resident side, everything's done on the back side, which keeps it away from disturbing any of the residents on State Street.
No, and as you said, there haven't been any complaints.
I do think though, Lily, it's, when we have some time to maybe think on this, but at least at this point, I would make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I think you'll want to also waive the 45-day requirement of this one, since it's 8/6.
And waive the
Thank you.
45-day. And I do like, just to comment as well, it would be nice if we have a consolidated view of how many of these there may be over time.
Again, I think they were just trying to figure it out this
Yeah,
season.
I agree.
I really think that's what it was.
Motion to approve as presented and waive the 45-day notice.
I second.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
I just want to stick people tonight.
I know, you're skipping all over. Okay, thank you.
Hey, once I get the quorum, I'm good.
Okay, next up, we have public hearings. We have several this evening. The first one up is the short-term retail business, excuse me, application for the Buffalo Bills. And this is an annual event. Dorothea's going, are you presenting?
Yeah.
Okay, Steve's presenting.
It's the same operation they've had for many, many years. They went back to the original route. I have the letter from the Pittsburgh schools authorizing the use of the parking lot. And there's been no complaints, no issues in regards to that. It's a great community event.
It's just one second, real quick. Just for everybody, this is the Buffalo Bills training camp, over the summer, so it's always great. They've been doing this now for almost 24 years in this community. Yeah.
This is more like a procedural operations question, but in the past, wasn't zoning and planning involved in approving this because it was an ongoing, give me a little, because I'm still.
The zoning change, which created it not to be able to go through planning and zoning.
And that changed?
So this is an option.
If I could just speak to that too, I actually did have a phone conversation with Justin Fleischer, the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals the other day. And personally, I would like to see this go back with their board. And I see this as kind of a stopgap solution to work with the codes so that we can grant the approval that we need to. He did express a concern that based on the currently adopted code, there might be some problems with approving an application like this. So I think that I would urge this board to have that discussion, fix the code issues preventing the possible approval under a code that's available to the planning board or the zoning board of appeals, and then eventually to move it back to their domain.
That certainly is a possibility. But what we have before us now is, with this particular path forward. So I would like to pursue that, but I think that's a very valid point, and that's come up in the past. We've all talked about this.
It would be a code change.
Yeah, it definitely would.
So how do we move, what would be the next step for that?
Well, why don't we kind of get through this, and then that can go back,
I think the issue was retail permitted in a residential district, and PZBA is not allowed to approve that. So it tied their hands.
Right. So here we are.
That's why it came to us.
That's why the path forward is through our.
It's the same issue with Harvard House.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or David Jewett with a Christmas tree.
Right. It's all the same. So we should circle back on that.
One final note on that too. I think just procedurally, we've got a very full agenda. They canceled their meeting because they don't have anything on it.
Yes.
So,
they haven't had anything for 5 months. So we've got a great board that's willing to take
Oh, let's load them up.
We'll load them up,
Let's
right?
load them up.
I like delegating.
Yeah, a very good board that's ready to.
Okay, so we have this application before us. And are we finished with discussion, or is there a motion to approve?
We need to open the public hearing.
Oh, it's a public hearing.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Don't listen to me. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Start there.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
I have someone online.
Okay.
It's Art Pierce, and he says he has a question to ask. I'm hoping this is related to this.
Okay.
Mr. Pierce, you're able to speak?
Art?
Mr. Pierce, you're able to speak?
He didn't put it in the question?
No.
Hey, hello. Yes, can you hear me now?
There you are. Hello.
Yep, thank. Yes, regarding Copper Leaf, there was in fact a complaint, most likely associated with Copper Leaf as far as drinking outside of the barriers of Copper Leaf, number one. And number two, I concur with what Lily had said, that this is definitely a creep of what the permit was required or allowed for this establishment. This is not picking on this establishment. This is just a matter of following proper protocol, proper statutes, and proper administration of the code. That's what I have to say.
A public hearing on another agenda item, and I think your points are very valid, and why don't we take this offline, and if you could call in and we can talk about it.
I'd like to talk about this and other matters in public forums rather than one-on-ones, if that's possible, and I think that's the purpose of having the board meetings. Thank you.
Another item on the agenda, we're in a public hearing, we're asking people
I understand that. I understand.
on the agenda item before us, which is a permit for the Buffalo Bills training camp.
I understand that. I made that statement because I wanted to comment in an open forum on the budget, and I was dismissed. I understand your current agendas, and thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Art. Please feel free to call in. I don't even know what to say.
I apologize to Mr. Pierce. His question came in, the way he worded his question, he put it in Q&A. Usually if they go in Q&A, and I did address this in our opening comments, I'm asking the board the question.
Right.
Because he said he had a question. I said, please, what's the question? And then he said, well, can you unmute me? And by that time, we had all moved on past that.
Okay, but
So,
we can straighten it out with him.
and I asked him to give me a call, and I would be happy to
Okay.
talk to him about it.
Okay.
And
I also think that, Lily's comments were well heard, and I do think it's worthy of a discussion. And so just in response to that point, I know we're in an open meeting, but it seems like the conversation will carry forward.
It certainly will carry forward. No one is dismissing any points that anybody wants to make at all. But, we have an agenda, we're trying to move forward, and we just opened a public hearing on a different agenda item. It's nothing more than that. This is simply where we are in the course of our agenda. Yes.
I do understand that, but given the very low volume of public feedback that this board tends to get, I'd like to just briefly respond. I'm a little bit concerned that there seems to be a discrepancy between what Mr. Pierce is saying as having had complaints, the village has had complaints about Copper Leaf, and our building inspector is saying that we have not had complaints. I would just like to address that factual discrepancy and see if our clerk could send us any written complaints that we've received.
I can
in
answer
any
that
way.
right now. There's
Okay.
been no written
Hold on.
complaints.
Okay.
We really don't want this as part of the public record, public hearing.
Can we
I'm sorry,
sort this
I
out?
apologize.
Thank you.
But we could close, when the public hearing is closed, then we can,
We're in a public hearing on a different agenda item. Can we all hit the pause button on this just for now? Because we want to hear from the public, if there is any public comment on the item before us, which is a retail permit for the Buffalo Bills training camp.
Go back.
Anybody else online?
I didn't make a comment.
Oh, yeah. Name and address, please.
Stand up.
Yeah, you can, or you, name and address. Yeah,
An address.
address, please.
On the Buffalo Bills issue, I
Jean,
think
we just need your
We need
address
your address
for the
for
record.
the record.
I don't know where you
Which address?
I don't know which one you want to
Pick
give,
one.
that's a
I have
question.
16 Lincoln Avenue, I have 5.
We'll start with that.
Where you live, where you live.
1435, Lake.
Okay, we're moving along.
Well, how much, do I have like 2 minutes or whatever?
Keep going.
On the Buffalo Bills issue, I think anything that goes on in the village, like having the Buffalo Bills here, we should be applauding that. The whole Buffalo will bring anybody into this village or into our area to help all the businesses here. I have a business here. Any of y'all know my business? So it helps our business. So I'm saying, God, bring them in.
Go team.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment. Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second?
You have a second roll call, please?
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Mayor, I want to apologize to trustee Lightgev, I interrupted him, but I felt like the record ought to be kept a little sanitized. I mean, we can go back to that discussion now that the public hearing is over.
Yep, thank you. Yep. Understood, understood. It's just, when there's a public hearing open, I think we need to, that's our focus, because it's time certain as best we can, and it is about publicly noticed and agended items. That doesn't discount any other thoughts on any of the other matters that come before the board. Okay, so it's back to the board for any discussion on this permit, or is there a motion to approve?
I just make a comment. I've been involved with the Buffalo Bills coming into town for probably 3 or 4 years now in planning board. And Justin, I know you've seen it prior to that. Our code kind of complicates matters, but we've had no complaints. It's great to have them here, and as a village in the town and the municipality and broadly, it's a great event and we all support. So that's
All
all
good. Yep, I'm right there with you.
So I make a motion to approve the Buffalo Bills short-term retail business application, please. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Just one
Nope,
quick
back for
discussion.
discussion.
So just discussion. There's no change in this application from any prior application, is that correct?
No, sir.
See in my
Yes.
discussion.
Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, great. Go Bills. Next up, the special permit application for 14, yeah, Steve, yes.
I do want to address back, if it's okay, because we are closing, and to trustee Lightgev's question. On my reputation, there's not been one complaint to me in regards to property in any event that's going on there.
So
I
this-
stand on that, I stand on my reputation.
So there's nothing on the record, there's nothing that has ever been submitted. Okay, yes, Lily?
As a point of clarification, I think that at least I've noted from some residents that, yes, you're absolutely right, they don't come into the village hall, but they come into maybe the sheriff's office or another, and we don't get that. So there's no way for you to know that there has been, that yet they exist, so both are true.
Okay, I'd like to add on to that. I meet with the sheriff every single month of Zone A, and anything that goes on in this village, they bring back. I've never heard anything, ever.
Don't they legally have to do that? I
Yeah,
mean,
they do.
yeah,
They fill
would
us
bring
in,
it back to our
they give
village,
us,
Formal report.
oh, yeah, I've never heard a thing.
And
I'll
I
follow
think
up
they'll
then.
go to the business owner as well. And what I'm saying is, I believe the residents when they say they have.
Oh, it's not that we don't believe it, but
I believe both.
It is not that we do not believe a resident. It is not about that. It is about the fact that this village, our code enforcement officer has yet to actually receive a formal complaint. And that was the discussion before this board. So I just want to make that clear. If they have issues, they certainly should come, have us address them, absolutely. And I'll follow up also with the captain of Zone A and see if there was anything filed, because usually they let us know. They usually even let us know that, he'll text me.
And I want to say for the record, maybe moving forward, any village residents that are listening to this, if you do have a complaint, I think the best way to do this is to send us an email to the village clerk and the building inspector so that you have proof that this was sent to us, and then for the
That's what they
record,
do.
right? That's going to be the
That's what
easiest
they
way,
do.
then
Yeah.
there'll be no discrepancy.
Typically how it's handled.
Okay, great.
Okay, moving forward. Public hearing for the special permit application for 14 South Main Street, but do you want to, let's make a
I
action
owe
here.
the applicant an apology. Unfortunately, there was a glitch with the legal notice, and it posted the meeting for the 21st, and I sent it on the 22nd, which doesn't make any sense. We can't go back in time and have a meeting, so there was an accident with that. Unfortunately, since it hasn't been legally posted, we have to reschedule the public hearing portion of this meeting till July 17th at 5 p.m. That is scheduled and ready to go, and my apologies, this is not a normal thing, and I can't remember.
So is it scheduled in another week?
Yes.
Okay.
So just so you know, the trustees have all decided to, because it was our fault, we're doing a special meeting so that we can make sure that this gets done quick.
Yeah.
We're not waiting for the next.
And the only reason why there's the time lag is there's legal requirement for the posting,
Yes.
to let the public know. Yes, Steve?
What I did suggest that they come in and present,
Sure.
and that way, if there's any concerns or questions, they can be addressed, and they can have a chance to address them between now and the
Yeah.
public hearing.
Exactly. Okay. Great, so come on up.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So my name is Andre Pedrosa. Address is 31 Glen Hollow, Rochester. I have a little photo, stay with my mask if you don't mind. I'm here for the public hearing for the 14 South Main Street. It's Italian suite and gelato coffee shop, so a mix of things, and I'm here to explain whatever you need.
I think that one of the concerns that I'm hearing is, can you just give us an idea of timing, like when you're going to be open?
Because we all want gelato and desserts.
All day.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we get this, the lease is ready, so it's just,
No, the hours of operation, I'm sorry.
the hours of operation is from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
9 to 8, and it's Monday through, every day of the
It's
week?
every day.
Okay, every day of the
That's
week.
what I saw.
And,
It's a lot of work.
yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, as I told
we
you, we
love it.
always had shop and malls, so they don't close it. So we're used to
Oh,
working
wow.
like that.
You're
so,
used to it.
Yeah. Do I like it? No, but
It's, yeah.
yeah.
So do we foresee a problem with that space? I know that there's some talk about whether those hours were going to be a problem. Steve, can you give us any feedback?
I actually researched this quite a bit, in regards to that. The last restaurant was approved, or the use there was approved till 10 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, I looked at the site plan, because you addressed issues in regards to that within the proximity of residential, and they met the requirements of the site plan with fencing in the courtyard to block it from the residential area.
Okay.
The plantings, actually, they need to be weeded. The plantings are the proper plantings that were proposed in the site plan.
On the back side of the parking lot? That was, okay, yeah.
On the
Are they still
street side,
alive?
Church Street, yeah, they're still alive, actually.
Okay.
But, and then I looked at dumpster enclosure today, it is still valid, I checked
Okay.
that out. And like I said, there are a few items that I sent to Charlie to address a few maintenance issues with the building that I think should be addressed before letting these people, start a brand new business with a few cosmetic issues. So I did send those items to Charlie today, and I talked with Charlie in regard to them this morning.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. We're really excited.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We're very excited.
Any other questions for our friend here?
No, I think that was.
Yeah,
So I
we're
just want to make a
excited.
statement, I want to make a statement, yeah, because since I'm not going to be at the special meeting, if I was, you'd have my vote. So that's all I
Thank you very
can
much, I
say.
appreciate
It's
it.
not a legal one, but you
Yeah, we're
would.
really excited to be starting. We hope at 30 days, maybe we
Yeah.
can get this approved, we can.
Great,
Okay.
good luck.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Great.
very
Okay,
much.
so we'll see you in a week.
Yes.
What
Thank you very much for
I
having us.
what I do need, though, I need you to come up with an interior seating plan, because I do need to verify the parking compared to the seating.
Why don't you guys get together on that after the meeting? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Next up, a local law for the moratorium on short-term rentals in the village. Okay, we have that before us. A lot of paper.
Again, my apologies to the board for that slip up in the date.
Well, it worked out, because it's just in 1 week.
Just a
And
mistake.
thanks to the board for stepping up for the special meeting, so we can all have cannolis. Okay, let's see. Any questions before we open the public hearing?
We have a question from the public.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Should we do it during the public meeting?
Is it about this, or is it just a,
Art Pierce commented, he wholeheartily supports this unique and exciting business.
oh,
So he's-
thanks, Art. We do too. Okay. Is there a motion to open public hearings?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second, please?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? And actually, just as a quick background, this is just a 6-month moratorium on short-term rentals, the brand names you know, like an Airbnb or a Vrbo, just to sort of hit the pause button in our village to have a citizens advisory group that's already been formed, take a look and maybe sort of be like a think tank, and maybe make some recommendations back to the board, whether or not we should enact some type of legislation and maybe how we should proceed. That's all this is. So with that being said, any comments from the public?
I
Yes,
have a question.
name and address for the record, please.
Gene Cardinal,
Pick an address.
5 Silver Pines Drive, West
Okay.
Virginia.
Okay.
How did the board select this group to talk about?
The citizens,
The advisory board.
the advisory board, there's a resolution and you can see it online. It's in one of our packets that the board passed, establishing, is a committee of, what do we have, how many, 7? Five.
Six. There was
Yeah, but
seven.
fewer.
So there's
Six people on the committee, and they represent, they're either, residents, some people actually own an Airbnb, some people own an Airbnb and don't live in the village, some people do, that kind of thing. So you can see the actual resolution.
What is the percentage of people on this group? 6 people, you said?
Yeah, 6 people, but it's just, they're not writing legislation, they're not writing code, we do that.
I understand.
It's just,
I'm just talking
excuse me
about
one second,
people that
excuse me,
give
I'm
you-
still talking, excuse me. No, it's just a group, an ad hoc committee that's formed.
How'd they get picked?
Pardon me?
How'd they get picked?
They were
By the-
appointed by the
by
mayor
the-
and then voted
yeah, by
in
the
by the
board.
trustees.
Most people that do Airbnbs or live in the village never got any requests of, they could submit their names to.
It was
be
posted
picked.
on our website, it was put out on Facebook, it was posted online, we sent out
Okay.
notices. So, I mean, it's in the media, our media.
Okay.
So,
Can I find out what the percentage of people are that are for this, against this, residents? Is there any way to know that? I mean,
I don't even know that, I don't even think our
Yes,
board knows it.
when they were appointed, we didn't ask that question. It was
No.
based solely on them just doing some research about what other communities had done. It's not about whether they're for or against it. It was just getting some research so
it's a
that we
group of
can.
people.
Well, they were picked by the mayor. and
What's
then-
your concern? I sense a concern for you that is, I'm not
Have
really.
an honest opinion
Uh-huh,
on Airbnb, VRBO, or short-term rentals
mhm,
in a village like this, which is a great village,
mhm.
to bring business into this environment. So my concern is, who are the people that are advising you or in this involvement of giving their advice or their opinion?
I'd like to just say, thank you for your question. I'd like to just say that they're not the only group. We have 1,100 residents, we have people who can weigh in. We already had a public workshop last fall about it. They'll bring back their recommendations or not to the board about how to proceed. We may or may not accept them, but we will always bring it back to the public, and we'll probably actually hold another workshop on this once we get the information back and have some ideas. And so it all still goes through the public process. The fact that these people are just essentially doing some research and trying to come up with really what's out there, what's working, do we need legislation, do we not? It's nothing more than that. We're the body that enacts the legislation, but we always bring it back to the public.
So
And that's what would happen.
I'm not
So-
informed what the general public
Uh-huh.
exposure is.
Right.
So you're telling me what is it? What are the criteria? How would I find out about it?
As I just said, it's posted online, and
Online with what? On the Village of Pittsburgh? Should I
Yeah.
go online, the Village of
what
Pittsburgh?
we'll do, you have his information.
I love it. I give you my email.
No, we can send you a link, and we can send you the
Awesome.
the information.
Yeah, maybe just click
How's
right
that?
Gene GENE@shareego.com, SHEAREGO.com. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you for raising the questions.
And your concerns and voice is just as important
Yeah.
as the committee too, so you can always weigh in.
Yeah, in other words, they're not a final say.
Yeah.
You know, they're just an information group.
I understand.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Dave?
David Ferris, 27 Arroyo, just for point of clarification, Gene, they put criteria of what they wanted in that ad hoc group. There's one business owner who owns rental properties, people applied, I think they had over 20 applicants. There's one who lives in the village and owns Airbnb property. There's another Airbnb owner that's not a village resident. That's 3 of the 6 I know of. They were appointed. My question though is, will they meet publicly so people can attend their meeting?
Yeah, they're meeting here.
Okay.
But they're not, but you know, hang on 1 second, because that was a discussion that we had with this group, that about whether they're really not, you know, they're not conducting
They're not
business.
subject to the open meetings.
You know, they're not subject to the open meetings law. They're essentially an advisory group. But all of their recommendations will be made public, and what I just said, I don't know if some people maybe missed that, it'll come back in the public venue and be vetted publicly.
Yes,
And
yes.
probably, I would think we'd have another workshop, frankly, you know, and engage the residents, engage the public. So I think that's really how it would proceed.
And they may choose to be public. We don't-
They could choose. I mean, it's up to them, you know, it's whatever they're going to choose to do.
One would think that it would be some combination of both, right?
Yeah, sure.
Where they have open meetings and conversations with the public, and then they go
Absolutely.
back privately, and sort of, if you recall the comprehensive plan, I think the comprehensive plan committee didn't have to meet publicly, but they did, they had charrettes, and it worked really well to build that process.
And Gene, also to help you, Bob Michaels just put out on the Pittsford, a couple of Pittsford Facebook post sites, he put out a call for people, give me your opinions on what you think about Airbnb in the village. So they are reaching out to everybody and saying, let me know. So if you know Bob, he's kind of taking information, so give him a call, send him a post.
Well, because there's a lot of people that I know, business people, that are very much in favor of a lot of things to bring business into the village.
Of course.
So they would definitely comment if I knew when this stuff was going on. So I appreciate some.
Okay, but we'll send you the information, we'll keep in the loop. And then we can sign you up also for e-bulletins, things like that, so you're a little more in the loop, okay? Because I know you're busy with all the addresses. Okay, any other comments? Okay.
Art Pierce, 70 State Street, wholly support the moratorium with consideration of the monumental impact that the village's board ultimate decision will have on the current and future historic residential character of the village. Furthermore, that with consideration of this overriding fact, a referendum may be the most appropriate and responsible action.
Okay, thanks, Art.
Thanks, Art.
Okay, any other? Okay.
Right now, that's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments here? Okay, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, back to the board. Here we are. Any further discussion, or is there a motion?
I think we discussed this, I mean, personally, I think we discussed this quite well, and I think that most village residents are appreciative that we're just giving ourselves a chance to breathe and make sure that we're really looking at this informatively, and that we're being good stewards of our village. So I would like to make a motion to approve the moratorium for short-term rental as submitted.
Okay,
Second.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, is back for any further discussion or comment?
I just had one comment, which is, as you think about the moratorium, in addition to the courtesy that we're extending to existing residents, I think more than anything, this is a courtesy that the village is extending to potential future buyers. Because if we're in the middle of developing code and you're thinking about buying a very expensive property to rent out, it'd be nice to know that there's code that's being developed to consider how we might regulate, if at all, short-term rentals. And so rather than going into the business plan as a short-term rental Airbnb property manager and not knowing that, by having a moratorium, what you're essentially saying is, we're working on it, so there is a degree of risk that you may assume if you were to purchase this property. But we're working on it, we'll know where we are, and we're going to get there as fast as reasonably possible. So I think it's a courtesy to those outside the village, perhaps even more than those inside the village, because the pace of new Airbnbs isn't that radical over a 3 to 6 month window. It's more about the purchaser that we're trying to extend that respect to, or at least me personally.
Thank you for that comment. Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so with that being said, now that this is passed, what we're going to do is we are going to do a posting about the moratorium on our social media, on our website. We're sending out an e-bulletin. We're also sending out a notice to, or a letter to the, the Greater Rochester Realtors Association that they can distribute to all the realtors. So they're just aware that this is something, that there's a 6-month window in our village. So everybody's sort of in the loop on that. Okay, so moving forward, discussion of the DPW security and safety plan. And before we address that, Lisa, you had a good comment that it's kind of a big deal, and maybe we need to actually set this up as a workshop to really kind of sort through this, just really going forward, because I know, you have a lot of input as well, and things you'd like to address on behalf of the crew. So,
What needs its own meeting?
yeah, I think it really does, because, there's a few moving parts here, as we've all talked about.
So do we need to make a motion for that to?
Just pick a date.
Yeah, we just pick a date. Yeah, that's
Do
all
you want
we
to do it
need.
right now, or can we do
Well,
it?
why don't you poll the board after the meeting?
Okay, perfect.
Either I or Alexandria will
Yeah,
poll
okay.
to set up the date.
Great, for a special meeting.
Okay. So
Can you put me in on
I, we need to use that.
you're part of it. You're in the heart of it.
I'm just wondering if there is anybody who wishes to comment on it from the public, though, or anyone who might be here to
Sure.
solicit comments for on it.
Is anybody online? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Robert Court.
Yeah.
President of the Friends of the Arboretum, 7 Washington Avenue, and I'm here with June Reeves, co-vice president of the Friends of the Arboretum. And we have a statement that we would like to read that does address some of the security issues.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me make this statement for the Friends of the Arboretum. The Friends of the Arboretum would like to thank the village board for approving the legal description of the Arboretum boundaries. We would like to thank Justin Lightgev for the extensive research that he did to include this discussion of where the boundaries were intended to fall in accordance with both the village's award-winning comprehensive plan and the past resolutions of the village board. We would also like to thank the DPW crew for the mowing, which has recently been completed. And we would also like to just mention a previous request about removing the pile of mulch that is now growing invasives, and it does need to be removed. We have mentioned that before, that there are invasives, and they are now there. We did have a photo of it, but I didn't bring it with me. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, I thought we had left that off, that you guys wanted to keep that most there for use around the trees, that's why it's still.
That is not my understanding, but could we talk about it?
Sort this out afterwards. Let's have, please continue with your statement.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We're very grateful for the village board, their approval to fund the removal of the 2 largest areas of the Atlantis trees. Mayor Plummer, you have requested that we tag the trees, and we have done so. We're now asking that the village obtain quotes in accordance with your procurement policy, and we can get the start of the removal work in place. This is not something that the Friends can do. As we have previously explained, there is an urgency to complete this work because the Atlantis trees are the primary food source for the spotted lanternfly. We are requesting that you allow us to clear the 2 new trails that we discussed when we appeared at the May meeting. One trail would provide a direct link to the canal towpath. It would allow walkers on the towpath access to the Arboretum and would thus reduce pedestrian traffic near the DPW yard and the garage. And the second trail would redirect the South Trail, which currently terminates at the DPW gate. The new road would bypass the gate area completely and extend the trail up through the spruce plantation where it would terminate opposite where the hillside trail meets the main meadow trail. And by extending the South Trail, the potential safety hazard that has previously been discussed would be completely eliminated, and a new area of the property would be opened up for enjoyment. We would request that you would vote on that tonight if possible. We are requesting that the boundaries and the name of the Arboretum be placed on the village's official map. We've asked Bill Smith to do this, and he is placing the Arboretum on the town's official map. And so we would request that our village board do as well. And one more thing. Kim Corby has offered to design graphics for a permanent Arboretum sign. Kim will incorporate the silver maple leaf and the font that was used on the temporary signs that were installed by the Friends. The silver maple leaf is particularly appropriate for the Arboretum because it is a native tree found in wet areas like the conditions found in the Arboretum, especially the north and west boundaries. We will submit draft designs to the board for your review and approval when the work is completed. We wish to remind the board that our membership includes Cornell Cooperative Extension certified master gardeners, horticultural experts, and arborists. Our president, Rod Corby, who originally conceived the concept of the Arboretum, has extensive professional experience in landscape planning. He possesses in-depth knowledge regarding tree habitat, regional ecosystems, and Arboretum property itself, of course. In short, the Friends have both the knowledge and interest to design and work on a design to move the Arboretum project forward, saving the village time and money. We request that you allow us to help you by continuing a collaborative effort with the Friends of the Arboretum. The Arboretum is a unique resource that few similarly sized villages can match. And in this time of accelerating climate change, the environmental educational purpose of the Arboretum could not be more timely. This purpose should be embraced and promoted throughout the village. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, June. Really nice words. Yeah.
You can go ahead first.
No, I just have a comment, because you're talking about creating some new trails.
Yes.
And, and everybody's excited all about, all this good work. It is public land,
Yes.
which is great, and it's the last big piece of our public land here in the village for everybody. And so I would think that really going forward, that we would want to work with the entire public and maybe hold like a charrette or some kind of a workshop, working with the rest of the community to talk about some of these things that you folks want to move forward with. Because, we're so excited to have the Friends, but I think what we probably need to do is set up some kind of a public sort of charrette, because I don't think we've even had any kind of public input in terms of charrettes on this particular piece of land. So I think it's an opportunity really to really include everybody and really embrace, this project for the entire community going forward, Yeah, well.
Would one way to accomplish that, to make the most of the charrette, to hire a consultant? I think the village is in the position to hire a consultant, and that consultant could then guide the charrette, and then we would have a purpose.
Oh,
right?
That would be
So
great if we
perhaps-
have it in the budget. I mean, we would have to really talk through that and how that would look. But there's a few more moving parts, I think, before we move forward. And the other aspect of this as well, that I'm concerned about, is we just prior to this spoke about having this workshop about the DPW needs and the safety and how we approach that. And I think that's also a starting point for us, because They're running heavy equipment back there, and they've been there for decades as well. And so I think we really need to kind of wrap our arms around that going forward, that we can't leave that piece out.
Well, that's why.
Excuse me one second, you're not recognized. Can you give your name and address, please?
Robert Corby, 7 Washington Avenue, president of the Friends of the Arboretum. One of the reasons we've developed these trail proposals is because we've heard the security issues. I was mayor for 28 years. I'm very familiar with the operation of the DPW, the constraints that they have, and the issues on the site. Both of these trail extensions we have looked at. We have the expertise. We've looked at every inch of that property. And these 2 trail extensions, which we showed you on a map in May, will bypass the DPW and eliminate the safety issues that have been brought up at previous meetings. What we're asking for permission to do is to just walk through the site, not do any construction, but just flag an area to see if it's feasible. At each step of the way, we will come back and check in with you. But we want to move this ahead because having a direct connection from the towpath into the Arboretum will increase the access to the public of this incredible resource and eliminate the safety issues that have been a concern for the DPW.
Well, part of eliminating the safety issues, thank you so much for your comments. I think they're really valid, and we're excited about the idea of having trails that safely can have people enter in.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I think that, the DPW area in and of itself has never been secured, There's no gated area, there's nothing. So that is something that we really do need to address, and that I think should be part and parcel of this going forward. We've had these, we've had these discussions, and I certainly think, that the idea of proposing the trails and wanting to mark them off and show people where they are and all of that is great, but I know both of you would want to engage the entire community in this process and bring it back as a charrette.
Residents of Pittsburgh.
Understand, we have 1,100 residents in the whole community, June, so it's an opportunity, though, for the entire community.
We are involving the community in a smaller way.
And let's involve the community also with this board, so we can actually, in open and transparent ways, hold a public charrette and go through this process. That's all. I think that's a positive thing. I think that we would all want that, 100%.
If it's done correctly.
Yeah, okay, yes, Justin.
Yeah, if I may. So I appreciate the work of the Friends of the Arboretum in marking out the ailanthus trees. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at that yet, but I think that's a very helpful piece of work. Since the village has limited resources, I think that we need to take advantage of opportunities where we're doing multiple things with the same efforts. So improving our recreational spaces as well as improving safety. And I think that what the group is proposing here, first of all, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fully within the boundaries of the area that we identified as the Arboretum.
Yes.
So I don't believe that we can keep them out of that area if we wanted to. And second of all, I don't see the harm in having them mark out where, with a couple of extra flags, where this trail would be, at which point we can all go and take a look at that. We can also put that on a map to say.
And we all include the entire public in a charrette.
Absolutely. I think
it's not about, I'm in agreement with you. I just think we need to broaden this and be more transparent about it with the entire community through our government, saying this is going on. This is a group that has started. Let's bring in the rest of the community. Let's take a look, because it's everybody's public land. It's everybody's. And that's all I'm saying. There's nothing more than that. And I so appreciate all the wonderful work and all the great ideas. And also, again, I will reinforce that we need to take care of our DPW, the safety and the security and the needs that they have expressed. And we are going to do that in a separate workshop. And maybe that's something that you all could participate in as well. Notice it. Excuse me one second. I'm just finishing up. And I'm the one who recognizes people I run this meeting. Yes, Bob.
As you said to me many years ago, actions speak louder than words. And although you have spoken in favor of the Arboretum, in the year and a half that you've been in office, there have been obstacle after obstacle. You use staff to articulate these, but they have come from you trying to oppose this project. If you want to have a charrette, I would be happy to lead a guided tour to explain the ecology to both the board and the public, as well as the ecological factors at play. And
I think the charrette's more about a site plan and how the arboretum would be used. Like you said, you want to mark off trails, so let's work with our public, the rest, all the residents, and have people come down and take a look at the thoughts of how it should be laid out. This is everybody's land, it's nothing more than that. I think everybody agrees that, we're excited to preserve land and unique ecosystems. We're all in agreement with
When
that.
charrettes are-
And so what's wrong with including our village?
If I might make a proposal here, Bob and June, how are you talking about marking things? With paint, with flags, or?
We would probably the best way would be tags, something with the tags. Tags the branches so you can see the roots.
So what I'll suggest, and are you okay with putting them there for a limited amount of time, let's say 60 days, and then cleaning them up after 60 days? So if you do that, I'm happy to go through GPS tag and put on a map where the proposed trail is, and we can bring that to the public at the next meeting and see where we go from there. So this is about leveraging resources from volunteers who are willing to help us understand what the proposal is. And then based on that, I'm happy to dedicate some of my time to create a map. We'll put that in front of the public and the board and see where it goes. So I'll make a motion that they be allowed to place those tags, assuming that they'll clean them up within 60 days.
Hang on one second. Yeah, excuse me, Steve.
Yeah, two things. One thing, the sign, just make sure the sign gets presented to the Historic Preservation Board, not to the Board of Trustees, for the design. That is in the code, the signs being approved by HPV. And the other thing, something's being left out here. This gentleman right here has a crew, he's responsible for their safety. You're talking about the public, you're talking about everybody else but him, in order to create trails and associate with his safety. And then first and foremost, Zach should be included in any discussion for any proposed trails, because he's responsible for all those people that work for this.
Well, I think that's just a matter of course. I think everybody would want that, for sure.
And I think the mayor made a statement, when we have the special meeting, I really would love the Arboretum, the Friends to be involved in that, because, the properties are right next to each other, so we really need to hear from you guys, your perspective, as to how to, make that safe for everyone, and how you can incorporate.
Point of order, I would like to second the motion that was made so that we can then have the discussion.
Heather, bring it back for discussion. Can you restate your motion? Because I don't know if everybody caught the whole thing.
Just the background, the proposal is that tags would be put up for trail extensions that have been discussed repeatedly by this board in recent applications and in discussion of the Arboretum. I would like to allow the Friends of the Arboretum to place markers effective immediately and to be removed within a period of 60 days, indicating where the proposed trails will be placed.
Right, so there's a second to that motion. Now we can.
Thank you, right, it is a point of order, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? We do have a motion on the table.
I would appreciate it if you could give us a walk.
Okay, Jean and Dave, if you could outside.
Excuse me, yeah, please talk outside the room, thanks so much.
Along with that, I would like the board, or whoever wants to go, I would like to have a walkthrough, guided from Bob or
I'd be happy to do it at any time.
And I think it's really about site plan. I think that's really where we're at. That's our next steps. It's like, what does this look like? What would it look like to go in, quote, on a trail in the Arboretum? Where are these trails? How do we enter? How do we exit? I think that's the next step, because there's never been a site plan. There's never been a public charrette. There hasn't been anything. And I think that is crucial. And I'm advocating for the Arboretum, but I'm also advocating for all the other residents, because they're going to want to use the Arboretum too, just to bring them into the process.
And I'm not against that either. I think that having this sketch map based on the ideas that we've discussed is a great starting point to move towards the site plan or whatever else is required.
And the other point I wanted to make earlier was that for a charrette to be effective, you normally give background to the people who participate, so they understand what are the environmental factors that need to be considered, what are the invasives that need to be cleared, what are the existing natural assets that can be enhanced, and what are the buffers and other factors that should be considered in the overall design. These are all things that we have looked at, and we can help you facilitate this. We want to move the project along. We're volunteers. We can help the village hopefully save thousands of dollars if you will allow us to do some of the work for you.
Great, that sounds great. So we have, okay, one last comment, and then I know, Dave, you had a comment, and then we have a motion and a second,
Well, I
so.
was just going to comment on what
Mhm.
Bob said about saving you money.
Mhm.
There were several of us out there this morning, and I have the bruises to show for it.
Mm.
We worked for hours in the Arboretum, clearing and cleaning up around trees. It's not easy work, and especially when you do it as an individual and not on a piece of equipment. But that's how dedicated we are to seeing this become a reality for the village.
Thank you.
And I can't begin to tell you how many people I have spoken with personally who have no idea that we have an Arboretum. So I would welcome any kind of publicity that would be.
Well, I think that starts by engaging the public in this manner that we're speaking about, so it gets a larger profile. I think we start with that, for sure. Yeah, Dave?
I just wanted to comment, it's been a few years where we've known about the Friends of the Arboretum, for sure, and similar to the Friends of, I think it's Mountain Hope Cemetery, and
Island Park.
And Island Park, and other structures where you have friends of a public resource or a public park. It's nice that we have a group that have come together, right? And from what I understand, it's an inclusive group that's open not just to village residents, but town residents and others
absolutely.
who support it broadly.
Yes.
And there's a sense of dedication that comes with that participation. And I'm sure there's dissension or challenges amongst the group, and it's, you may have bylaws, you may not. These are things that, as you think about long-term and inclusion of the entire public and the village residents and the 1,500 people that can participate, or get the exact number. If the Friends of the Arboretum is successful, right, they're including more and more people who want to show dedicated time, and it creates an organization that has long-term success and adds value. So I guess one thing that I would think is, if you are interested in the Arboretum, this to the public, there is an organization that has been interested in the Arboretum for multiple years trying to move this forward.
Yes.
It's not taking away in any respect our ability to engage the public in a meaningful site plan, to include what do we as village residents want. And I think you're there to complement that and to help push that process forward.
Absolutely.
I think where we are right now, though, the biggest challenge that I find is a safety challenge, right? And that can only be solved with better ways to get people and the public into it. And the public's not going to know to get involved unless they can get into it safely. So I think there's actually an intermediate step before the site plan and the charrette and the engagement with the advisors or consultants. And that is, let's just figure out a way that people can go in safely. Right. And to me, that's a path. And so I support marking it.
And that also starts with securing our DPW.
Yep, so this gets to
In
the
other words,
next.
that's what I said earlier, and I'll repeat it. I'm sorry, we're saying the same thing differently, because they're in tandem. We cannot look at one without the other. They are co-located. You guys are, you're, side by side. So we cannot look at one without the other.
And so I may, there are safer ways and paths that could probably be used to get people into the Arboretum. I think the best thing here would be to engage in this idea of marking trees and marking paths. Have, prior to the final, here's where it is, Justin, go take a look at the GPS and make it work. Zach, if you would be willing to walk that and make sure that there's nothing sort of structurally wrong with it, right, that you might think from a safety perspective relative to your equipment, what you're using, hopefully it's far enough away. I understand all this is going to have to come back to us. It's all going to have to come back to us, and it may not occur prior to this safety meeting that we're going to have. But I think if we wait for a site plan to be approved and we wait for a charrette, there's a whole lot of safety challenges that some intermittent steps in advance like this would possibly remediate a little bit.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Oh, I'm sorry, Zach.
I just
Real
wanted to
quick.
say, we've been looking at this for 2 years
Yeah.
now, and we're still
Yeah,
having the
this is where
same
you are.
conversation.
So let's figure out where the land is and get people to walk around.
This is where we are. I sense your frustration.
Right?
So let's move forward.
And then let's move to
Because you
the-
guys have already decided what you're gonna do anyway, so whatever.
Continue with the motion. So
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Vote passes.
And just to reiterate.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your good work. Thanks for your good
Thank you
ideas,
so
too.
much, you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate
Great
it.
organization.
If I may, Mayor, I just wanted to respond to a couple of other
I hope
points
so.
that were brought up here.
Great work.
Hang on one second, excuse me. Justin has
There's
the
a lot to
floor.
unpack, and I want to take advantage of the resources and the thought that you put into the Arboretum. One thing that came up, perhaps before you came into the meeting, is the removal of the ailanthus, and that was brought up by our DPW superintendent as possibly causing a problem when we're cutting down the grass in the meadow, where the stumps, perhaps from the ailanthus, is puncturing the tires of the vehicles that we're using to mow the area. And that's causing extra costs for the village. It's damaging equipment. And I think that one of the things you mentioned, which is the removal of the ailanthus, which is now tagged, part of that mitigation is also going to help us use village equipment more safely and more cost effectively. Where do we stand in terms of getting quotes for acting on the removal of the tagged ailanthus? Because that's.
Well, now we know they're tagged.
Yeah. They're tagged now, and so we're asking that you go through whatever your.
Yeah, we have the money set
policy
aside.
is.
So what's the next step?
So we'll get quotes.
Do the next step.
We'll get quotes.
Yeah, we were,
Now we know it's
my
really on the tag, we
understanding,
just found that out.
my understanding
you.
is we were waiting for a plan from the group on the.
Yeah, they were,
And then we had-
I thought they were gonna talk to
So
prison.
now
Prison
we
was supposed
have
to
to
help with
get
the
a-
plan.
we'll have to get an
We're
RFP.
past that at this point. That's abundantly clear.
We're gonna have
That step was skipped.
We
So-
need to get an RFP or
Yeah.
quote something together. We have the money through ARPA, so we would get the quotes, get the numbers in, bring it to the board. The board would approve a quote, the board would do an amendment like we did for the purchase
For
of
the
the
ARPA
trees.
funds, right.
To use the ARPA funds, and we would move forward and get the work done. It's gonna take, I'm gonna say, this isn't gonna be a quick turnaround, because I'm gonna guess the cost of doing this is thousands and thousands.
It is.
It's gonna be a couple meetings.
Yeah, I'd rather spend a few thousand on invasive mitigation than buying new tires that we're just going to pop anyway.
Yeah,
So.
no, I agree. I'm just saying, so.
I'm all for the
expect-
stewardship for the
I'm gonna
removal.
say, you're looking probably, if everything goes smooth and I can get everything together, you gotta get notices done, maybe September. Maybe we could start with that.
Well, we'll see. We'll try to move along as quickly as we can. Let's try to move it as quickly as we can.
I'll
because
make a motion
that's why they're
that we do
invasive.
prepare the RFP and submit the RFP as discussed.
For the ailanthus
For the ailanthus.
Yes,
It shouldn't be just ailanthus.
Yeah, so I
Some of other invasive.
I will second so that we can discuss.
Point of order.
Okay.
Okay.
We still talking?
Oh, am I seconding?
Yes.
Am I seconding? I can?
Please do.
I will.
Okay. Okay, we're back to, you were saying something, I'm sorry.
I was just suggesting if, we're looking for quotes on the ailanthus, then my understanding is the hogweed, what is the?
Yeah, it's not hogweed.
What is?
Not.
Thank you.
If it's hogweed, we're getting the DEC.
You see it on-
It's terribly
So
poisonous.
there's something that travels around really easy if you don't treat it right out there. That's mudweed.
Yeah.
There is not one that's in your
Jefferson
market.
Valley.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
The
think
list is endless.
the challenge might be is if we go in to try to remove the ailanthus, if we're moving around all this other stuff that then isn't populating. So do we need to have this quote be beyond just the ailanthus?
I need someone professional to write the quote, RFP, and we need to
We can
reach out to professionals to
Right.
get the best action for.
But really, the motion shouldn't be just for the removal of ailanthus, that's really where we're going.
Right.
Ailanthus
The
should
word
be put, the word
invasive.
invasive, and because
So
it's
let's
so
make-
far beyond, but definitely ailanthus.
But I think we picked the ailanthus as the highest priority.
It is.
Because of the spotted lanternfly,
Mhm.
we provide food for.
Yeah.
And I just also wanted to remind you, there are two very small groves that are spreading rapidly of ailanthus on the northeast and southwest, or excuse me, the northwest and the southeast corners of the State Street Bridge along the canal around the abutments. Those are something the crew could take out. I would recommend, even if they're just cut down, to stop them from spreading, because I've watched over the last couple of years that they are spreading pretty.
Well, if we cut them, the rhizomes spread. So, but I know we can, we'll talk about that offline,
Okay.
because we've noticed that as well. So
Let's-
thank you for bringing it back to our attention.
Yeah, so as far as this motion, it would be to have an RFP drafted to address the mitigation of invasives, focusing on ailanthus, but also including other invasive
Removal.
species.
Right.
Removal.
removal, and then we would also have to have immediate suppression.
Right,
You know, we can't
my
just remove.
anticipation would be bring an RFP to the board in August for you to approve or to go out to bid. Bring that in, and then award in September.
I second the motion.
We had it second.
Oh.
Didn't we?
How come we said it again?
It's an amended motion, so.
Okay, it's amended, I second the amended motion.
Okay, so roll call.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Can
Motion
I make
Okay.
just a suggestion?
Yeah, real quick, because we're
This
trying to
is
move
really
along.
quick. In the RFP, if you ask them to do it over in the winter, you will get a better price. So I suggest you do that.
Yeah.
It will be much easier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Yes, Steve.
I have one quick thing for the friends. While you're up there, because they've lost tires and stuff, if you guys are up there working and you see something like metal sticking out of the ground, there's a way you can mark it.
Put a flag in.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? Or
Flag it.
paint or take a stake and flag it so it can be removed.
We can provide the little flags.
Cost them $400 or something.
Can you give us some tags? and
We will provide them.
Tag.
I actually have flags at my house. We'll provide them.
All right,
I mean, it works for.
Okay, you're all set?
all right, just.
Circle back on that. One last thing, and we need to
Yeah,
move on.
one last thing I agree we need to move on to. There's just a lot of material here, and I
Sure is.
really appreciate the efforts on the Arboretum. Bob and June,
June.
so as far as,
June. Oh.
that's okay.
Okay.
The official map, so we've, in our recent meeting, we approved the preparation of the village map, the survey that Scott Harder prepared with the Arboretum bounds put onto it. So that'll be on file in Village Hall. And that's already in the works. As far as putting on the official map, Jeff, I don't know if there's a specific step that's needed. Would that be the zoning map? And is that where this should be indicated? I don't really know what the right step is legally.
I don't think you need to put it on the zoning.
Yeah, it's on its own, and that's the official map, right? So we have a map that is the result of an official survey
Right.
with these meets and bounds placed on it, so I think that'll fulfill that criteria, but if there are
That
any.
reflects the dedication.
Okay, but we can wrap this up also.
So I think that item is done.
Yeah, we can wrap that up because we have it. Scott Harder.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, moving along. Let's see, the appointment to the Historic Preservation Board. You all have received the resume of Dr. Carolina Torres, and also did you all see the letter of interest that she expressed? Okay.
I appreciate that one.
Okay, she has sent this letter of interest, and what I'll do, I think it probably makes the most sense for.
The letter of interest.
Oh, okay. Actually, do you want, you've got the letter here too, but I'll read it, so
Okay.
we can go right at, as per my conversation yesterday with Mayor Plummer, this is my letter of interest for the position of Historical Preservation Board member. In addition to the executive qualifications described in the attached CV, curriculum vitae, I have the following relevant experience for the role. 1, restored a condemned 1874 Victorian home at 601 North Church Street, McKinney, Texas, from 1993 through 1997. My husband and I performed a total restoration of this historic property, doing most of the work ourselves and closely working with the town planning and zoning board to ensure the renovation was historically accurate and appropriate. 2, co-founder of the McKinney Historic Neighborhood Association, McKinney, Texas, in 1994, and I was a member until 1997. This organization was dedicated to preservation of the historical Old Town during a time of rapid suburban sprawl around Dallas. We worked to make Old McKinney a destination with beautifully restored Victorian homes, boutique shopping, art and music venues, and high-end eateries for the enjoyment of the surrounding bedroom communities. Then she goes on to say she was vice president of a homeowners association. She managed a community of 380 executive homes, responsible for oversight, maintenance, development, security, pretty much just overseeing the entire community with a budget of $1.2 million and a capital budget of $2 million. And she and her husband currently own the Carver House at 41 Monroe Avenue, which was Bill McBride. We all know Bill McBride, Bill and Sean's house. And they are delighted to be stewards of that beautiful, historic, and iconic property in our village. I met with her, the chair of the HPB met with her as well. I think she's highly qualified to serve on the board, and she recently retired from her career, so she's really excited. She was retired, as she said, for about 2 days, and then she realized she really wanted to become involved and very active in our community. So I would like to appoint Carolina Torres to the position on the HPV. Are there any questions? Yes.
Just a point of clarification, which seat on the HPV is this?
I had sent a letter out. Kendra Evans has fulfilled Mark Harrington's term because he had passed away, and that term has been completed.
So this is filling Kendra Evans'
Yes, it sure is.
seat that
You bet.
was
Yeah.
previously
I know
filled
that's
by
a
Mark
concern for everybody.
Well, I just think it's important to be clear.
Yeah, and so that's the clarity, because I know we want to have that. Yeah, any other questions?
I just had a comment.
Yeah.
Just thank you to Kendra for filling the seat that was left behind by Mark. I mean, all these boards require volunteers, and it's nice to have a community of willing volunteers across the entire community. So thank you to her, and having met Carolina in the past, I think, and also sharing the prior resumes as well. Thank you for that. I don't have any concern.
Okay, yeah, she's excited about it. Lisa, did you have a comment?
No, I'm very
Okay,
excited.
you're in the groove there?
Everything.
Lily, did you want to?
I appreciate the letter of interest, and she certainly had a very impressive resume.
Oh my gosh, I didn't understand half of it, just so you know. She's an engineer, and she worked for an oil company and worked on, I mean, it was just, wow, I know.
This is more specific to the task, and absolutely, it sounds like she will be an asset to that board.
Yeah, oh,
I have public comment.
okay, just 1 second, yeah.
I just had one other comment, having been on the planning board when they had presented the reconstruction, or the new construction of the garage in the back right, just how much care and attention both she and Carl had in doing it right and really preserving the integrity of the space and knowing the value of their home in the community, but also in the general context of the historic preservation of the community. So just wanted to compliment.
Yeah, thank you for that, because when I did meet with her, they had also been before the HPB, obviously, before the addition, and worked very closely with them for a long period of time to really get it right, And by the way, their architect, Blake Held, used to be on the Historic Preservation Board. So it was sort of a big love fest because they all were, had that same passion about wanting to do things correctly. And I think also because she did have that experience coming before the HPB, she sort of had the applicant side of it, and I think she can also bring that back to the board. She had a very recent experience, So I think that's also a plus. Yeah. Did you have any other?
That was it.
Okay, so, yes, you had
I
a
have public comment I
Okay.
received. It's from Christopher Dabrowski from 11 Washington Road. He says, Dorothea, please include my email for public comment on agenda 11 pertaining to applicant criteria. Oh, never mind, after this one.
Okay.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
Okay. Okay.
I'm done.
You're done. Okay, so.
Is there a motion?
Okay, so.
Just ending the meeting over.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve Carolina, I have to say it correctly, Carolina Torres for the HPV.
I make a motion to approve Carolina.
I think the mayor, sorry.
Well, you have to make it.
The mayor must make the motion.
Oh.
Do I formally make the motion?
Because it's your
I
appointment.
don't think anybody,
So it doesn't
no. I don't think it has to be.
The board approves.
Yeah, I just,
But the mayor's
I
appointed.
appoint, but you guys have to approve.
Got it.
So you can make the motion.
Oh, I can?
Yeah.
Okay, I make the
Okay,
motion.
rock it out.
To appoint,
To approve the appointment.
to approve the appointments that the mayor has
Yes.
brought forth
Thank
for
you.
Carolina
Carolina.
Torres for the HPV seat, fulfilling or taking the Kendra Evans position. Do I have a second?
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next up, thanks, everybody. I think she's really going to be a great asset to the board.
Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing us.
I know.
Her
She's-
forward.
She's a new person in the community, and she's got a lot of energy,
Yeah,
which is great. Okay, so next up, we have, the review of the proposal for the plantings at the Four Corners.
Yes. Okay, so I sent everybody the information on the plantings in my kind of schematic drawing, so it doesn't look very professional, but I think everybody got that. diagram right in your packet? Okay, so I'm trying to be simplistic. I don't want to get too fussy. There's nothing there except for a lot of metal. I just thought that warming it up, traffic calming abilities by using green, that's going to stay green all through winter because we've got a long winter here, is going to be a great way to just to kind of camouflage all that metal there. I went and spoke personally with Mr. Newcomb, who owns the building in the back, the Phoenix building, just out of respect to tell him this is something we're thinking about and what his thoughts were on that. And he liked the idea. His father has passed away during COVID and was thinking about doing a memorial bench and said that he would love it if we could incorporate a memorial bench in that space in honor of his dad, and he would be willing to financially support this project if we could do that for him. So I thought it was a win-win for the village, and that's where I am. I want to know if anybody has any questions.
And my understanding, though, is that, the traffic signal box, that's going to be painted like a dark green.
Yeah, so what we were going to do is we're going to wrap the box, just like we did. Yep, and then it's going to be just dark green. And then this is something we can do, at a later time, but I thought of getting our logo, our village logo. I know we had talked about painting, and this is something we could talk about in the past. We've got this sweet little historic logo, and there are decal companies that we can maybe even use to put on there. Again, that's just something that we can do at a later time, but yes, it will be wrapped green until we figure it out.
Just make it green.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and that can go with it at a later date. So I'm really looking for an approval so that I can pass this, because it's got to make an application, it's got to go to the state anyways. So this is just getting approval for you guys from the board so that I can send this off to see if the state will even allow this to even happen. And then come back to you and let you know if they like it or if they wanted us to change anything, and I get your feedback. So it's going to kind of mimic the across the street, very simple hues, and then we're going to have just the daylilies in the front, and then maybe a couple hostas, kind of tucked in back, or not hostas, a couple hollies, a male and a female, so you get some berries. It's where we put our Christmas tree and a menorah. So, what do you think?
Okay. Yep. I don't know.
Given my experience with the DOT in the past with their permits, I am going to respectfully suggest that we keep it as the application as simple as possible for this first step of acquiring a bench in this location without adding plantings to the application, because the more you give them to look at and approve or disapprove, we might lose an opportunity to have the bench, because if they don't like the hedge or the plantings, then they won't approve the bench. I think their concerns are sight distance for pedestrians coming up the sidewalk and also bikes coming around. If that were blocked in any way, that would be a huge concern of theirs. So I think from that standpoint, we probably have the likelihood of the most success if we kept the application in a stage one, let's call it, as simple as possible. And what we really would like to do, I think, is to make that corner more attractive and also respect Mr. Newcomb's desire to have a memorial to his father placed at the Four Corners.
So you're saying like what, wrap the box green? And
yeah, that's another one.
And the
I thought we had already talked about that.
Like go with that.
Yeah, just go with the
add in the bench,
green.
because we know the nice guy would
do the bench.
Yeah, they probably would. Okay.
And then once we get approval for that, then we wouldn't have to maybe, we wouldn't have to take the rest of it to the DOT. We could just sort of do plantings later at our leisure. That's my experience.
Yeah,
I don't want to
at
ask.
least have that experience, and I know Zach has as well, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you planning on just setting the bench similar to how we do the other ones that are sitting in lawns, with just concrete pads for the legs to sit on, or do you want to do a paver area to get to as approach to the bench.
No, because it's going to be right, the bench is going to be.
Just setting a bench right in the
So
line.
it's on a concrete pad.
Yeah, just a couple little pads, just so it doesn't stick to the
All
ground.
those details, the DOT.
Yeah, I've
I've
got that.
Like,
Yep.
everything.
Because there in that area, as you know, there are probably 3 or 4 access points to like little manhole covers and gas and
Yes.
all sorts of things.
So many
There's
utilities.
a lot going on in that little corner.
So digging,
Buried wires everywhere as well, gas lines. Yeah.
So
I'm just afraid that they're
you're
going to
saying
say to us, the
start with a
DOT's going
little-
to say,
Okay, yeah, like the bench we could probably get is where I'm hearing from, because Lily's had this experience and I know you have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, anything else you wanted to add? 'Cause I know Steve had,
Keep it as simple as possible.
because Steve took a look at it as well, so I know you had.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Lily, because that was, when looking at the picture, my concern too, in regard to putting a hedgerow there, because that is a very busy corner, and you don't want to block the view, like say bicyclists and people, that whole corner is very busy, so a solid hedge right there might not be the best, maybe something sparse, a little bit.
Or a different type of planting, maybe at some point, if we can get the bench in at least. And then maybe the next step, we could look at something.
Yeah, any plantings that would put in there as well would be subject to the snow being pushed against it, because we
That's
run
the
out of
corner.
places to push
Okay.
snow in that area. Salt obviously would affect any plantings that would be in there as well. So
Yeah, they have to be salt
all
tolerant.
considerations.
While we're talking about it also is the material of the bench, because I know you had expressed an interest in having us change from is it IPI or IPI?
Ipe.
IPI, it's fancier, wood to another material. I am wondering if the board would like to talk about that, since I think we want to move this bench project along, and they want the specifics. When you make your application to the DOT, they want exactly the specs of the exact bench you're going to have, and materials and bolts, and, I mean, it was very technical.
Can I just, okay, because I think my intention was never the bench, okay? The bench I was using to get it paid for, to be honest. I mean, Mr. Newcomb gave me the information, I had no idea when I went to him about any bench. My intention is to soften that corner. It is full of metal. We've got the same hedge across the street. It's never caused anybody to fall off their bike. It's not going to be that high. It's going to be low. I mean, it just needs to be soft. It's a major corner in our village. When we drive in, I don't want to see a ton of shining metal. I mean, we've got 3 signs. To me, I'd rather do the plantings and let the bench be second. Then we put another bench in there. Now we got a whole bunch of more stuff going on. We've got the post and the bench and the wood. To me, we've got to soften that area with some green. That's just my thought. I mean, the bench was just secondary. I said, would you pay for it, Mr. Newcomb? He said, well, I think about it if you could do that. So that was secondary.
In the DOT.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're kind of.
So my whole reasoning for that was to soften that corner and put some greenery there. And again, it's right across the street. The snow has never been an issue. The salt has never been an issue. That hedge has been there for a while. But they're doing really well. They're doing really well. They've been there for as long as I've been in the village.
I'm indifferent.
Okay, that's fine. I want to hear your
really,
perspective.
the board's
Yeah.
trying to sort through this.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here.
I just wasn't sure if it was being.
No, because I'm just thinking, because you're right in front of me.
He's expressing everything has to be salt tolerant.
No, and I agree.
I'd like to weigh in on the historic aspect of really what we're looking at, because as we know, the Phoenix building is probably, it is the most iconic building in our village at that 4 corners. And so I see it a bit differently. And this also came up when I was on the board of Historic Pittsburgh, because we looked at the Phoenix building and looked at the possibility of actually putting in at some point a true pocket park there that would reflect sort of more the historical plantings and what it would look like, going up that sidewalk to that door and doing something that would frame it. And I get the idea of softening it. Believe me, it's a bunch of metal there. And I think, even just painting the 1-box screen is at least going to help, and it's a start. But I do think that those yew shrubs, to me, it is what would be called a suburban plant. And I think that they're used in a way across the street with Bob's building for different reasons. That it's not an historic building. The building, in fact, is infill. And those shrubs are there to essentially block and buffer like the cars really behind it. I think the application in this instance on the other side in front of the Phoenix building is something that serves to maybe block the metal, but it also alters the view of what is behind it. And I think that maybe, as Lily said, maybe we just take a little mini step, kind of at least get the box wrapped. Maybe we get in a few plantings that maybe are not necessarily hedges, and we look at sort of holistically what that parcel looks with that beautiful entrance going up to the Phoenix building, and maybe over time, maybe the next couple steps are, how do we frame that? How do we engage the public as they walk by or drive by to really see that, wow, there's a door there. That actually was the entrance to the Phoenix building,
And that's a good point, because remember how I talked about doing
I
the
know,
fountain and the
I
temperance
thought of that.
fountain? So I'm going to go back to my material and see what
I
was
thought
there.
of that.
What plantings were there?
I know.
That's a
I
good
have some old photographs of the Phoenix.
Yes, so do I, and I hope.
Yeah, and I know Mike Newcomb has a bunch of old photographs as
Okay,
well.
that's a great.
So I'm thinking,
yes.
maybe we just start, as Lily
Can you make
said.
a picture?
While we were talking, he's got the old Phoenix with the porch. Is that the wraparound porch?
Yes.
Yeah.
But there isn't much.
1910. So there was an old step up onto the stagecoach.
And there's hitching posts for the horses.
There's actually a telephone pole.
There's the little, I think that's the
There's a
little
temperance fountain, there's a temperance fountain.
Right.
And then you had a telephone pole.
Right.
And you had a sidewalk here. You had some weird little funky shrub on the left side, but nothing of significance.
Yes, so there isn't now.
There really wasn't anything.
Anything.
Well, because it was a roadway,
Yeah.
and actually it cut that corner off. That's why remember we went through the whole thing with
Right.
5 State, it's because of how the road actually was for wagons. So, but we have the opportunity to at least address it from, I think, a more historic standpoint of what would be used in that time to, just over time. And I think that's something, maybe we can work with Historic Pittsford on it, they can really help us. They did the historic plantings around, I remember when we did that around the Little House. I think there's a lot of opportunity, that could be kind of great.
One of the things that wasn't there was the historic landmark.
The marker.
Yeah.
We can just pick that up and move it to the other side. So
Okay, so,
there might be
yeah.
some things to think about.
We need to speak with the village historian about that, because she sort of oversees all the markers.
Yeah,
And there's a,
yes, she's very attached.
she will
She
fill
doing
us in on.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah, she's our
All right.
historian.
I want to put a wrap on the thing, like, I'm 100%, let's get the wrap
Yeah,
on
let's
it.
get the wrap.
green,
Okay, so you
some
want me
sort
to move forward doing the wrap?
Just get
In
the
the
wrap.
meantime, I'll contact Historic Pittsburgh and just look into it a little bit more. I agree with you, though, now that I'm thinking about that hedge might be too much of a blockage instead of and maybe
Because
individual little
we can maybe
things.
create, we can further tell the story
Right.
of the Phoenix building, by
Okay,
the
so
way
you
we
want,
address
so
it.
I guess so then maybe I'll change my proposal to, I'll just do the wrap. I'll do the wrap. I mean, I could do the bench if you guys want me to.
Well, we should do the bench.
You want to do
Yeah,
that?
so I think you should. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Mike Newcomb's building, it's a
Okay.
memory bench for his dad.
Yeah, so it'll have that corner.
I think it will. I
All right.
would agree, because that's a nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you're considering the bench, the EPA, the teak, it's a lot of maintenance. Cast tends to break if someone smashes into it, and they're problematic with trying to get them welded or fixed, because not too many people are capable of welding cast metal. It's a tough one to work. Same with the urns, same stuff. The teak and the EPA really want to be gray, and everybody sees that gray as the wood kind of deteriorating when that's not the case. Everybody wants it to look like it's finished.
I don't know, I like the gray.
Yeah.
Same here. Just keep that in mind that the wood is.
Well, we looked at composite, though, we
maintenance
looked at recycled composite. Remember, we looked at those.
Yeah.
Does it essentially look like our existing benches?
There are many different variations of it. Maybe dig in a little bit and make sure.
Can I make a comment? Coming from historic preservation, I would really have a hard time using material that we don't have on our materials list. I mean, we can't ask people to, not use composite decking, and then go put a bench in the center of our village. So I'm very,
I know,
just saying,
I know.
so I'm very much, we've got to use materials that are appropriate for.
But hang on,
historical
there's a couple things at work here, and I agree with you on 100% on that. However, we also want to do things that are sustainable. And composite has come a long way in terms of using recycled materials. I think we should look into both, maybe. I personally don't have a problem with the weathering of the bench. I think it's
I like
pretty,
the
that
weathering
silvery,
too.
it's pretty and silvery.
And
I don't know.
environment.
What do you?
As we have been talking about the program, the bench program, and maybe phasing it out for a while, I'm wondering if the board might consider these last two benches, these will be the last two.
The last gasp.
Good, okay, I like that already.
That we do the same as the other benches in the village.
Just do it.
And
Just do
then
it.
if we consider benches in the future,
Okay, so
then we look at the.
so we're not one and done, we're two and done.
Yeah, because that is
I hear you.
very much central.
I do.
Okay, all right, so.
What do you think
Yes, I
about that?
You guys pick a bench. Keep in mind the maintenance that would go along with that, and however you guys want to do
And
it.
that also should be reflected in
Donation
the
program,
donation.
if it's going to be indefinite or what. Metal, seems to last a long time.
Why don't we do this then, after the meeting, why don't I have some material, because we've had discussions about this. I'll send it out to you guys, just the research that's been done, what other programs look like in other, communities. They sort of retire the bench after some do it after 5 years, some do it after 10, So let's take a look at that if we're going to circle back.
Well, let's go back to my motion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change my motion to send in to the state for a wrapping of the control box, which will be then painted like a deeper evergreen, nothing bright, deep evergreen. And then also put into that request a 5-foot. So this is a 5-foot bench, so it directly is parallel, right with the way the sidewalk shifts. It's right, so it'll be right in there. And that will be all I do right there. And then I will obviously go to Historic Pittsburgh and work on some plantings, but that would be phase 2. How's that sound? So phase 1, the wrapping of the box, green, and then the memorial bench for Mr. Newcomb, just the same benches that we've been using around the village, the last 2.
Okay, so that's the motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye, and I want to thank you for all your work. It's just, try to pull this together.
As long as, I've got 4 years here.
As we're on a little roll with the benches.
Yeah.
Could we talk about the State Street bench at the same time? Could we talk about the State Street bench at the same time, so that the order can be placed together?
Yeah, let's do that.
We might get a discount if we get
Oh,
two.
yeah. Okay. Let's circle
Remember,
back.
Mr. Newcomb's going to pay for that bench.
Okay. Say that one.
Mr. Newcomb's going to pay for
He's
that.
paying for his bench,
Yeah.
but it's a State Street bench.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he'll get a
Yeah.
discount.
Yeah.
Did you look at the photographs and did you have an opinion for the board?
Yes, the one that would be, I think it was the third photo, showing the radius closer to the boulder and by the sycamore, the one in Plain Street. So it'd be kind of more on the turn into Shane Place side.
Okay. In what relationship to the sign that says Northfield Common?
Yeah.
It's behind you?
We should do a site, do you want to do a
we should all
site
have the
visit?
photographs.
Yeah. Let's do a site
Let's
visit.
meet down there. I'll pull up a picture with an overlay showing where the
Okay.
property lines
Yeah, I
are,
can go
what we
down.
have to work with. And we can
Okay.
kind of mark it out in place.
Okay, great.
Is this going to be a full board meeting?
No, you guys can visit independent, I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
I
I mean,
said
otherwise we have
photographs.
to publicly notice it.
Yeah.
But I think you should take a look,
Maybe Lily and myself
Yeah,
and
why don't you
Zach,
guys go?
for you guys to do it?
Yeah.
I sent pictures to everyone.
Yeah, there you go. And then, that's
Okay.
fine.
I know, I just want to see.
Yeah.
I'm.
Oh, absolutely.
So, okay, so do
Okay.
reconnaissance and report back from the
Give a
field.
bird, say I'm
How's
walking
that?
around, whip over on my.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Yep.
You're out of here.
If I need for anything else.
I think we're good.
I have one thing, and this has to do with the MUEC, so I just wanted to come back to that briefly. I believe the code, just take a look, it allows for single or dual family, right? I think the term was two-family residence.
Yeah.
By allowing residential on first and second floor, it would allow a duplex to be a first floor and a second floor resident, but the multifamily would still have to come back special permit. So there's a structure by which it makes sense for it to be residential on first floor and second floor and not have it by default allow for multifamily, because the dual family could be
It's a
living on it.
duplex.
They'll estimate, I believe that whole building's like 8,000 square feet, so.
And it only allows for 5,000 in the MUEC. So anyhow, but I think from the code perspective, it might be okay the way it sits.
Well, maybe we should take a look at it for clarity, though, because, that's maybe where we're going.
But that makes sense to me, to have
Sure.
the ability to reside on a second floor unit and a first floor unit, but still have multifamily be by special permit.
The only issue, they actually read it, it says units.
Okay, but we can sort this
Yeah,
out. I mean,
anyway,
we don't
just
need to do that right now, but thank you so much for bringing that up, and I think we can sort that out, certainly for clarity. Okay, moving on, review of the GPI contract. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you. Okay. Here we are, back at the ranch. That was a sigh.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so, as you know, they came and met with us, and they came back and brought it back to us, and we should have had Scott here.
But
Yeah.
Are we in a rush? Are we in a rush to do this?
Can we
Can't we
bring it
have
back
it with
to-
Scott here?
Yeah, we should
What's
have
the
Scott
rush?
here, because we may have some additional questions.
I think the rush is, this has been going on for months.
Well, we're meeting in another week. We're meeting in another week?
Well,
We're meeting on Monday for the special.
Man, if the board wants to move it to Monday's meeting, but
I would rather have Scott here. This is a big
I
deal.
agree.
I have one question that I would put out to him.
Yeah.
I would like for him to be there, which
Yeah.
is, this is about the same as the first response. And it would be nice to know what was excluded and what was included, and the cost differences between them, rather than just having.
Just having the sheets in front of us.
Because it
Right.
seems to
Very
come to the
helpful.
same cost.
Yeah. especially
Yeah,
Scott would be helpful.
okay, thank you. I wasn't
Yeah.
just,
I think we, like,
and Jeff, and excuse me one second.
They judged it just a little bit.
They judged, right, yeah, technical term here.
Same.
They're engineers, they judged. Jeff, and you maybe had some comments as well, just in.
Yeah, I've got to work it out with the engineer I'm going to be emailing with. I didn't want to do it until I was sure that
Okay.
we were going to do, this is something to be serious about.
Right,
So I've got a problem. It's terminable on 10 days' notice. Had a
yeah,
hard enough time landing this contract. They walk away, what are you going to do?
right,
You
okay,
want a contract to get the job done, not to have them walk away midstream.
right, okay, so that's a concern. I think in just one week, if we just bring Scott back and, we can,
you said this is a 10-day.
No, the contract is terminable on 10 days' notice.
Yeah.
Section 7.3.
What does that mean?
they can leave it, 10 days' notice and they're by, fine.
That means that they can say they're done, and in 10 days, we're going to be pulled off this job completely.
Yeah, we can be left high and dry.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I see. So if we awarded them this contract, they have a 10-day, okay, I see what you're saying. Correct. So that would want to be something if we do move forward.
We got to handle.
Do we want to look into that before?
No,
then?
I've emailed him.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
no, he's-
we're gonna,
Okay.
simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
So why don't we do
Monday's
this to move things
perfect.
forward? I think, you raised the points. Let's shoot, if you can shoot that email to Scott
Yeah.
and copy the board. Let's bring it back in just one more week. It's not the worst thing on the planet, but it's a big deal for us, and we want to make sure we're dotting i's and crossing t's.
It's actually less than a week. It's only 6
Yeah.
days.
There we go.
just want a project.
It's right around the corner. Yeah, Justin.
I just wanted to bring one more thing up in regards to the GPI proposed contract here, but I'm a little bit worried that we're talking about 93 grand for this project. Originally, we only got one bid on this, and that was for a different scope. After that point, the scope changed, we've had multiple revisions. We've still only got this one bid that somehow kind of surprisingly to me, it came back at exactly the same 93,000. After shooting up to a 180 for a little bit, it was back to 93. I guess I'm just concerned that, even though I respect the desire to move forward with this quickly, are we confident that we don't want to send this back out and see what other things we get based on the refined scope that we have right now?
What happens if we don't get anybody?
I think GPI would walk at that point.
Yeah.
I do too. I think we would lose
I just
them.
want to remind the board, we put it out to bid just for Southwood. We threw in Sutherland.
To try to get people.
Get bids. The first time we put it out just for Southwood, we didn't get any bids.
Then we got.
Then when we threw in Sutherland, we got bids. So I can't, the problem is the projects, even with the hall, I'm finding we're so small, we're being overlooked, or we don't get called.
It's big to us, but it isn't to.
It's not to them. So it's obviously the board's prerogative, and to me, this is getting very stale.
Well, I'd like to see this.
And I think you need to clarify it with them, but my concern is going back up to bid.
Well, I'd like to see this through, and I agree with Dave, what did they leave out? Let's see that,
And
I think
Scott
that.
can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to go back to the.
No, but I'm just saying, that gets forwarded to Scott, let's circulate it.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but I know.
Okay, so everybody good with that? It'll be next Monday. Let's get some of this information. We need more information. Okay, so that's the action item going forward.
If Scott's available.
Yeah, but he may be able to provide all the information, or at least he can usually zoom in, but we'll reach out tomorrow. Yeah, we'll reach out. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, the review of the proposed tree ordinance. Well, we just got the draft and we kind of wanted to.
Yes, so I wanted to just kind of table that because.
I haven't even had a chance to.
I haven't had a chance to look through it, and then I want to send it to everybody else, so they could take a look at it, and then we'll bring it back, because it's kind of prematurely.
Well, that was quick. Okay, so that sounds good, right? Well, I'll be working on that draft. Okay.
So you'll be seeing it. I think I actually already sent it to you guys.
I just saw it. I saw it came in, but I didn't get a chance to see it. Okay. Bench placement location on State Street, we covered.
Yeah.
We have the reconnaissance
We'll get back.
team.
So,
Okay.
If the benches can be ordered together.
Okay, together, they would like that. Next up, the discussion on updating applicant criteria for the HPV and the PZBA board.
I did.
Oh, excuse me, one second. Yeah. Hang on. I'm sorry?
I didn't expand it.
Excuse me, hang on one second. Sorry, it's just, hang on.
Oh,
Dave, sorry, just recognizing that.
Proposed tree replacement.
Right.
Oh, that was in Zach's report. We addressed that in the beginning of the meeting.
Came in this David Ferris, 27 Monroe. I just was requesting for the trees on Monroe Avenue as a major gateway for the village, that there be one of each tree planted. I'm going to forward some articles to the board about different trees. The city arborist recommends against fruit trees on the public walkway streets for pedestrian walkability. They're not as high and so forth, dropping fruit and so forth, and I'll send it. There's also an article that refers to the Cornell Cooperative. It has an index of disease-resistant trees. I don't know if we use that as a reference.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things they say is having diversity of trees. I experienced this myself on my property at Danielli's with a row of maple trees, which progressively all went. And the ones on Monroe were maple trees. So for the Monroe, I like to have one of each tree, and suggesting variety, and also recommending against fruit trees. I'll send those articles and appreciate this going forward. It's been 3 years with a tree taken down in Monroe.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And that's also part of urban forestry and canopy management. It's not just, chuck it, replace a tree. You really have to think about the overall canopy in the village, So thank you for that. That's just great.
Copies of these articles to the clerk.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's wonderful. Really appreciate that.
They're very informative, good links, and as we go with the minutes. Because they're all people starting trees themselves in the yards.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Updating the applicant criteria for HPV and PZBA boards.
I had sent to, is that okay to speak now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. You
I had
asked for that.
sent to the board and to Jeff a proposal to add language to our existing code regarding the criteria we use in selecting applicants for the boards when they are not village residents. I hope the board has had an opportunity to look that over, and I invite their comments at this time.
Okay.
Billy, for the record, can you just read that? Or can somebody read it? You want me to read it? It's just very short.
Sure.
I can even
Sure.
read it. So it's the chapter, Historic Preservation, Chapter 112-4. Right now, it's the 2 members of the APRB, which we should change to HPB, may reside outside the village, provided that such a member is a resident of the town and county wherein the village is located. And the proposal is to add such members who do not reside within the village shall be required to possess both a demonstrated interest in historic preservation as well as professional experience and education in architectural history, historic preservation, and architecture. Do you want to go on?
Yeah. No,
I also
I think
suggest
you should.
language to include fulfilling the requirement of Federal Register Guidelines, 36 CFR 61, or the following guidelines requirements set forth in National Park Service description.
Okay.
That's clear. That's clear to me.
I support this initiative. I'm not sure, I think we would want to finesse the language. My concern would be that we would want to be really concrete about what the qualifications are, and I think this is a good step in the right direction. The idea for me would be that if we're opening up the applicant pool to people who live outside of the village, that they have unique professional qualifications that help them to fulfill that role. And I think this is a positive step in the right direction.
So help me with this, because why is this in the wrong direction? I mean, like, what is prompting this in terms of what has occurred so far with the existing language that is resulting in wanting to have this change? I would really, help me understand that.
Sure. Being present for the initial decision that several boards ago made to allow the board, because it's not normal in municipality to go outside of your municipality to form boards. It was researched and discovered that we could, with board approval, I'm not using the right language, we made an ordinance to permit the addition of 1 member of the PCBA and 2 members of the Architectural Review Board, at that time, Architectural Review Board, to live outside the village but reside in the town and the county of Monroe. And the reason at that time was that it was felt that the boards would benefit from having the opportunity to draw from a larger pool of professional to make certain that they were getting the best possible candidates for the board. And the idea was that if a candidate was being chosen who lived in the town over a person who lived in the village, the point of difference was that they be a professional in their field. And that was the reason that they were being brought to the table as a board member. That was the discussion at the time. There were trustees who were not in favor of having non-village residents serve on boards. And so during that discussion, it was determined to be in the best interest of the village, but it was never clarified, I felt, in the language that was laid out in the ordinance that we approved, to specify what those criteria might be to have a candidate chosen from the town over a village resident. And I just felt it was time to go back. There wasn't anything specific that occurred.
Oh, okay. I mean,
No, this is something that, is always, it does come up from time to time when we have candidates for various boards, and villagers have applied for the positions, and I guess in my thought process, I feel villagers should take precedence first over town residents, because they have, this is their municipality, this is their government. So I would just like it clarified, the reason why we would not choose a village resident and choose someone from the town is because they are an architect or a historic architect, or because they are a planner, or they are an engineer, or there's something specific to their professional background that makes them uniquely qualified to serve on the board.
Or they worked in preservation for 48 years.
Yes, something
like
that is specific to that board. And so my motion this evening would be to request or that our attorney draft language for us to consider to change the ordinance to add this criteria of language to our present code.
So something along the lines of village residents take precedence, or like
I
how
don't think I would say it that way. I think the way to consider it is that if a person is chosen for the board, it is because they have this very specific professional experience that they're bringing.
outside of being a village
Yes,
resident.
if they live in
If
the
were
town,
taken
the
out.
reason why they would be brought onto the board is because they are an historic architect, or they are an engineer, planning engineer, or similar.
See, I want to take this a little step further, because, I mean, let's just take a look at our advisory board for the short-term rental, okay? We didn't say, if you are a short-term rental owner out in Pittsburgh, you can have 5 of them that don't even live in the village, because I think there's such a benefit to have a village resident. I even think even more so over, whether they're an architect or not, because there's a vested interest in your own backyard. So we didn't fill our short-term rental committee with people that were experts in short-term rental, right? We wanted to make sure that they had a vested interest in the village specifically. So that's kind of where I go from. I mean, I've had lots of discussion with people that are in the town, and, well, why doesn't the village do that? And why doesn't the village do that? Well, it's not in your own backyard, so it's easy to say that. So when you have it in your own backyard, I think it's a little bit more, you're a little bit more passionate, and you're a little bit more particular about what happens. So that's kind of why I think that we really need to focus on trying to get appropriate village residents there if they have experience. So that's kind of my.
So what I'm hearing is that you would like us to consider changing the ordinance to only permit.
Not only, but make them a priority, make the village residents a priority. If they're appropriate, if they've got experience over a town resident with maybe the same experience. I don't know how you word that.
Okay, yeah, everybody's weighing in. Yep, David.
Yeah, I would just chime in, and this goes back, Lisa, to something you had said maybe, I don't know, a month or two ago, or maybe it was even a year or two ago when we were talking about it, which is, these boards are opportunities for people to come into the municipality and participate. And that participation starts sometimes very young. I know I was new on the planning board, never done it before. I don't know when you started on the HPB or anybody here in terms of their volunteering. It all starts somewhere, right? And I think the vested interest in living here does lend itself, perhaps without experience, to subtle mistakes or some mistakes, but they're mitigated by the infrequency by which they may occur, the size and the scale, and or the fact that there's 4 other people on the board that we're bringing along as we go. I think for me, while I like the experience requirement, I would just as well only have 1 person on the HPB be outside the town and add to it that requirement rather than 2 people. And the reason is, and you ask about, well, what might bring this about in terms of my idea, 75 Monroe is a classic example, in my sense, of 2 members of the HPB who lived outside the village, being a participant in a process through the 121.5H review, right, where they took it upon themselves, as they were allowed to in code, but those two members were a critical component outside of the village in approving the 75 Monroe multifamily development. And I think there's benefits to having that in the community. I also think, there are other challenges to it, but it's moving forward. The difficulty that I have is I would rather have a project of that size and scale, and we may have many of them, whether or not it's Talbot's or it's Barnes or any other redevelopment, come from the core that we're building from within and teaching, and helping our village residents be a participant and more of the determinant as to whether or not a major project moves forward. And if you think about the planning and zoning board, right now, there's only one member that can be outside of the village. And the planning and zoning perhaps has as much, if not more, potential influence than the HPB on a much broader level. So to me, I think we go back to the one member and we take it upon the board to make sure that the qualifications of those members are appropriate. I don't necessarily need to have it in code, right? So the question is
well, that's part of the vetting process anyway.
To the point
it always is
that I've always suggested, which is,
look at who we just appointed.
You can appoint whoever you want. We can approve whoever we want as a board. It's nice to have some guidelines as to what we may or may not like. It may or may not be infringement on the appointment, but I think at the end of the day, more people in the village is better than less. I'd like to move it to a one member outside the village.
If we can draw from that pool.
And then find a pool and develop it, and make sure, this is on us, to make sure somebody on that board is always very qualified, and somebody on the board is, so build that chain of support, because it seems to me, from all of us, I think we've come from these various boards or committees, right? We've participated in government prior to getting to this point, and we want these places to be feeding grounds, I think just broadly, for municipal involvement, and it possibly leads to, elected positions, and if not, it's just great to have people who care that live locally.
No, I think it's a yes, Lily.
I keep going back to when this was originally discussed as a board, and the only reason it was suggested that we go outside of the pool of candidates in the village was to obtain for the village an expert. That was the only, it was not, in other words, a level playing field. It was intended that that if there was an architect, an historic architect that lived in the town that we knew was quite talented, that we would be able to ask him to be on the board. And so that, I think that was where it started. But I think that to specify that, I'm hearing, I think, that the preference is that villagers fill the seats on the village boards. It's not required to have a member from the town on each one.
No, it's an option.
It's not a requirement.
It's really an option.
It's
I mean,
an
I
option.
would love to have all villagers, but I mean, I think we have to be realistic about the pool as well. So I can see one or two, whatever.
But I think when we had the discussion, it was like, that if we could not find a candidate within the village, then we would go to the town, so that would be like
flexibility.
If then.
Right.
So I'm open to what the board is saying, and just I'm hoping that we can give direction to Jeff so that he can draft something for us to consider. But I do believe that it needs to be a part of the code.
Okay, and then did you?
Yeah, I think these are all great comments. I do agree that the great part about having a village is that we have a say in our government, and having people from the village on our boards is a huge part of that. So I think that, it could be going down to one person, and it could be pointing to a very specific concrete qualification: architect, certified planner, lawyer, maybe for the ZBA.
Well, I like the idea of demonstrated interest.
And I think that
For the demonstrated interest, I think was a good, I think to be so specific, I'd be careful with that, because you're even narrowing a pool that's out there. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think I'm concerned about where this is going, that we're sort of cutting off the nose to spite the face thing. In other words, if there's somebody who has a demonstrated interest, and I'll just say the chair of the board right now, for 48 years, has been on the board of directors of the Landmark Society of Western New York and has served 9 counties in our region. He also serves on the board of directors of the Eastman Museum. So he has a demonstrated interest. He's not an architect, but boy, he's an advocate, so I think, I don't want us to narrow it too much in terms of how we're putting it out there
Well, I
in
guess
terms
my
of
question though
criteria.
is, what is the demonstrated interest? How would you define a demonstrated?
Well, I think that's part of how you come, you don't know till you get the candidate in front of you. And then, we looked at who had the demonstrated interest tonight. In other words, I think we're being way too specific. I think to keep that in there, I think would be a good thing. And I understand where you
The term
guys are going.
demonstrated interest
Yeah,
also.
I think that's important. Bill McBride served on the board for what? How many years? 15? Bill McBride.
Oh, yes.
Easily. He has a demonstrated interest, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I hear where this is going. But I'm sorry, I hit the pause button with Justin, and I know you listened.
That's okay. I was just trying to be more concrete.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're talking about demonstrated interest, you might as well say nothing, because it doesn't really have any.
That's in addition to all the other things, though. I think it gives us the latitude. It's like applying Secretary of Interior guidelines. There's latitude in those. I don't know. Go ahead, and then I'll weigh in, because I want everybody else to speak.
So I'm of the mindset, like any of these appointments, I've kind of said it before with other appointments, which is your prerogative as mayor is your prerogative, and that's the current law. It is our prerogative as trustees to move these forward or not, whether or not those are suggesting we want to see all applications, we want to just see this, whatever it is we want. Demonstrated interest, they're an attorney, they're not. So for us to impose particular requirements on future boards, I think the best one we can impose is that we have more, not less village residents.
I think, that would always be my first choice, to be honest with you.
And so to the extent that with a 5-member board, 2 can be outside the town, I do have a challenge with that, and I would gladly support a motion to have that be simply 1.
Okay, I'd like to weigh in on a couple of things, because I think, first of all, if you live in the village, you can serve on a town board, and many villagers have, because we care about the town too. And I think if you live in the town, you see this as your village. And I'm concerned that we're sending a message somehow that anybody from the town may not have the best interest of the village at heart if they're going to serve on a board. And I'm concerned about that type of message. It doesn't mean that I am in disagreement with you guys, but I just, I think we have so many good people who live in our village who may or may not want to serve. We also have great people who are in the town who love this village. We've had people who have lived in the village and then moved out to the town because they needed to get a larger house for their kids, but they love the village. They see it as their village. And having grown up here and lived just over on French Road, this was my village too. Hang on one second, and I'm kind of, everybody weighed in. Please just give me one little thing. So, I think, I see it as just a lot of people that potentially, first of all, if you put in a letter of interest, you're already pre-qualified for wanting to do this and wanting to contribute in some fashion to your community. And again, I say people from the town that I've spoken with see this village as part of their community. And in fact, the person who is currently serving on the Planning and Zoning Board, who just happens to live literally over the village line, lived in the village for many, many years and was so excited to be able to come back on the Planning and Zoning Board because they care so deeply about this community and wanted to serve it. So our villagers, of course, we want to engage our villagers in our government process and bring them along. I think we always need a junior varsity team, as we say. We want to have people participate and understand the process. But I just don't want us to just discount people in the town because they just happen to live in the town. I just think that we have so many good people in both. That's all, and I just wanted to put that out there because I just want to frame it a little bit differently. Yeah, I know you're chomping at the bit.
No. So the first thing is, elections and government structure, right? Not to think about the history of government, but we are a small municipality that is a self-governing entity that has control of its own destiny, that elects its own officials, and we make our own laws. Those laws are adjudicated and interpreted by two primary boards, the Historic Preservation Board and the Planning and Zoning.
We're aware of this.
The interpretation of those laws is critical to have the same vested interest in the local municipality from which you come. We don't allow elected officials to come from the town. Yes, we recognize we are in the town, but we're small densely packed residential communities are different than large, broader, bigger towns. That's why we have our own government. So I'm very concerned, frankly, about some of the comments with regards to our own JV team. JV only takes 2 years to become varsity, right? So we need to create an opportunity from within to support the village through these opportunities to serve on these boards. But most importantly, when we write the code and these boards interpret the code, I want that code to be interpreted by people I live next to, not people 5-10 miles away. As much as I do respect that they may be more skilled, potentially, they may be more qualified, potentially, but they're not my neighbors that I'm here trying to represent.
I don't know, I see people in the town as my neighbors too.
I'm not suggesting that they're not.
I just have a different outlook, that's all. I mean, it's just a philosophical approach. I really understand where we're all going with this. I understand this, don't think I don't. But I do know, and you were talking back when this all started, that there was a lot of issues with trying to get people to get on the boards. And so I think that was, as you said, looking at a little bit of a larger pool of resource people. So with that being said, I mean, I think we've had a really great discussion about this, and I really appreciate everybody's input. But so, yes, there's comments. Okay, but the goal is going to be to direct Jeff, just so we want to move forward. So let's take some comments, please.
Okay, I have two different comments. I have one that was sent to me earlier in the day.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I tried to read earlier from the wrong time. So please include my email for public comment, Chris Dabrowski, 11 Washington Road, agenda item 11, pertaining to applicant criteria for HPB and PZBA. First and foremost, who does this benefit? How does having a more stringent criteria benefit the village? Currently, the board has not even filled the existing open positions in several months. Not only would stricter criteria make it more difficult, it is my opinion it would harm the village. Secondly, as it stands today, we have barely been able to function as a board due to the inaction of the village board. I would encourage you to appoint the applicants presented to the board rather than looking for ways to make it harder to appoint members. Best regards, Chris Dabrowski. Okay. And then I have our Pierce, 70 State Street. Believe that all village board seats should only be held by village residents who have a direct vested interest in the village, respect the historic cultural village that it is, and pay taxes versus those outside who do not. Better to have less than a full board, full board, a board member who is not 100% vested in the village. Just as village residents cannot vote for town representatives. Town residents cannot vote for village representatives. Same logic applies to discussion of board membership. Agree with points very well presented by Trustee Marshall.
Great, thanks, sir. Any more?
No.
Okay, let's move on, because we want to give some direction to Jeff. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I would appreciate that, so that we have something to deliberate and to actually vote on.
Okay.
I'll make a simple motion to change the HBB membership requirements to only one member living outside the village.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call.
Any discussion?
Well, we've been talking for a long time. I mean, I think we've beaten this one to death.
Sorry, hold on a minute. Okay, Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Okay, that passes.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we request our attorney to draft language as I had outlined in the email to the board and to the attorney regarding specifying criteria, qualifications for both PCBA and HPB. going forward.
For somebody outside the village? Or does that include everyone?
Yes,
For somebody outside the
regarding
village?
candidates
That are
who reside
counted.
outside, potential candidates who reside outside of the village, which is what I outlined in the email, so that the board may deliberate and discuss.
I second.
Hold on,
Oh.
may I speak?
Please do.
Discussion.
I have the language that Lily drafted for the HPV. I can turn that into a local law, along with trustee Marshall's change. I have no language for the PZBA. I don't want to be drafting legislation out of my own initiative. I don't want to be saying to the board what ought to be in it, because I'm
Some guidance for the.
not in the board's head.
If I may just comment, I think it's a little bit problematic to draft that for the PZBA because they are two distinct boards, and the professional, there's currently one member allowed outside of the village, and if you are to select qualifications, you would have two different disciplines. You'd have law for the ZBA and
Yes,
then
there's separate
planning
parts
for
of the
the
code.
Right,
planning
start
board.
with just the HPV
So I-
then? Just start with that?
Maybe, I just don't know what to
Okay.
install for the planning board, for PZBA.
It certainly would be possible to draft something along those same lines. Certified planner, I just don't know what the board would want me to put in it.
Do you want to come up maybe with some suggestions for language for Jeff? And
I would look at the one
How
for
about-
shade saying,
How about the motion include for the HPV trustee Lampire's language, and then board members will email me suggestions for the qualifications for the PZBA, and I will then put them all in, you can weed them out.
And if I may, these codes could be adopted together or separately, correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's a motion, I think.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
As amended?
As amended, yes, as amended.
Does that mean it's including the PZBA?
It's including the emails to Jeff, to the suggestions, he can bring it back. They can be voted on separately. Yes. Roll call?
Sure. Trustee Marshall?
Nay.
Trustee Coe?
Yes.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
It passes. Okay, next up, discussion of the refuse district.
Okay, this is gonna be short and sweet because, again, we're just in beginning steps. There were a couple concerned village residents that had asked me if we could look at creating refuse districts in the village so that we don't have garbage all over the streets all days a week. Katie Oram, who lives at Jefferson and Sutherland Street, and Edie Linares, who lives at South Main Street, have kind of taken this initiative and have met with me.
Edie Linares.
Linares,
Yeah,
Edie, yep. Yeah. So Katie's kind of like, kind of spearheading, sharing it a bit, and she had requested that I just brought it up to the board to see if it's worth their efforts to move forward and trying to learn the process of creating refuse districts, and whether we need to have a formal vote for them to even start doing legwork and start to collect petitions. It's got to come through the village board, and we have to do a motion in order for them to move forward, or if they can move forward and then come to us with districts that have been prepared. I don't really know the process, so they want us to.
There's, let me talk.
Yeah.
If they could create their own districts.
Yeah, they could do a private
They
district.
could do a private negotiation of a neighborhood association with a refuse hauler. But if they're talking about doing something, the village doing something, it's different than the town. So you can't use the town as a model. It's a special benefit district that the village would have to set up, and there could be more than one.
But can you just tell me why it's different than the town? Why the process will be
It's not
different?
set up with the same, it's not set up. I couldn't tell you what the difference is off the top of my head. I can only tell you that I think it's on petition with the town. It is not on petition with us, but they could file a petition with you that would express residents' interest in having a special benefit district, the board could then take that under advisement, but it has no legal force and effect. So they can't come to you with a petition and prove that it's X number of the people affected, and then this board has to create a district. They can come with your petition and say, we would like to have you think about doing a special benefit district, much like Mr. Limbeck petitioned for action on the STRs. So it has no formal force and effect. It's a request from residents or a group of residents to the Board of Trustees to consider doing a special benefit district.
As opposed to, under municipal law for towns in New York State, a petition is essentially binding for the
That's, I mean, I've
state
done a lot
action.
of research, but I think that's the case.
Yeah, that was always my understanding as well.
So this is it's a different animal at the village level, but they certainly could do, if they're looking at the town and trying to do that model, that's not the right way to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it is a way to go that will accomplish getting the issue before the Board of Trustees.
Well, it's come to this board, and
Yeah,
Lily,
is there a number to the petition? In other words, is there
No,
a certain
it's not-
percentage of the
no,
population that has to sign
This is
it? or-
totally up to the board. It's at the board's discretion.
So 10 people could sign a petition, bring it to the board, and then the board would then be compelled.
No.
No,
to decide what.
the petition is not binding in the village municipality.
No, what I mean, I'm saying a different petition. I know how the town works.
Oh, okay.
When you said that if villagers were interested in the board creating a district for the village, because it would be one special district.
Could be a mini.
We could have 5
Amen.
districts. We could have 5
But to
districts.
compel us to do that,
There's no compelling.
There's no compelling. It's at the discretion of our board to take it under advisement, is what
I
it would be. There's no mandate in terms of law at the village level. A petition at the town level brings a mandate, not the right word, but brings.
Right. It's not the right.
It's a
cause of
Thank you,
action.
cause, thank you.
So what kind of guidance should I bring forth to them?
Just go, I
I'm
mean,
kind of
the board has addressed this issue before.
Okay.
And if they want a benefit district,
And what is it, what is a benefit district?
special benefit district, it's where the village negotiates a deal on their behalf, and the cost of the refuse collection is then added to their taxes and collected as a.
And the administrative cost of us handling that, in other words, now we're handling this on their tax bill.
So that only a certain number, so only the people in that district would have
Yes.
their taxes, would
Yes.
have it in their taxes. Other people don't have to.
No, they vote to form. For example, let's use the town as an example now about forming a district. So the town only has a few districts. They're actually growing more quickly in the town because it has been successful for them with their model. But the entire town doesn't have all this, benefit districts. It's case by case, it's neighborhood by neighborhood. Now, you could have 10 people in this village come together and form like their own little petition saying, yeah, we want this. And they could do the whole thing privately and never come before the board. They could just go right to any vendor and say, look, we have 20 households.
They would just pay.
They would just pay it, they would just negotiate directly. We have 20 households right now, we just want you to be our vendor, we're putting it out to bid, we're doing it privately, great, we all dropped it by $15 a month. Awesome, they never even have to come to the board, okay? And Katie, they could do that right now. They could just get a group right down on their end and just say, can you do this, So, and this is how it's come back to the board, is, Lily's right, it's come back to the board before. Do we set up districts? Is that something we want to do? And how does that look? And Dorothea would weigh in because there's administrative aspects and her oversight as treasurer that would come into play. Because now we're accepting revenue and it affects the tax cap.
And I think that's what Katie wanted us to talk about. Would we, as a village board, accept that process? would we even consider that?
I think we really have to look also on the administrative end and really see what
Yeah,
that
I
looks
think
like.
that would be-
cost us.
That's my
Administrative.
concern with it, hearing it overall and express.
So why don't we do this, because I want to respond to them, I
Yes,
think,
me
they're
too.
interested, and they brought this up, and
Yes.
it's come before the board several times, so I think the action item really would be, let's take a look at the administrative component, what this means for our village to implement this, and let's look at a model, I'm just throwing this out to the
Yeah.
board, I welcome everybody's input, but let's look at a model where we could have the whole village as one refuse district, or we could divide it up and let's say up to 4. Let's take a look at sort of a range of what that maybe would look like.
Yeah. For me, I'd reach out to the other clerks to see
Yeah.
what is,
See what
if
they're
they
doing.
even address it.
So other clerks in other villages.
Right, and
Yeah,
to say,
so, just so we
okay.
get a little bit of research,
Yeah,
how
that
would
would be
this
great.
look for us to
And if
take
there's
this
anything I
on?
could do to help.
Okay.
No, it's an email.
Okay.
Yeah, Justin.
Jeff, you're talking about, is there a part of village law that's within the last 50 years or so that allows for the formation of special districts? Are we sure about that? I'm
Yeah.
reading an old opinion from the Department of Taxation and Finance that says that villages are generally not authorized to form districts. So I assume something different has happened. This is
How was that opinion?
1972, very old, so.
That's
just
a
making sure.
classic.
It's definitely a classic.
You know what, I didn't bring that file with me.
That's okay, I trust that it's there, I just
Is
Googled
that
it
village code or
quickly.
is this the?
I'll look
I'll send you the article that I'm drawing on. What?
Like this?
Okay, but let's just
Check
close this
section
out. 'cause-
2-256. That's New York State village law.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
you got, okay.
Thank you.
Let's close this out, so we do have at least an action item to, let's take a look at, for what it means for our
Yes,
village
that's great.
administratively.
That's a great
Let's start
idea.
with that,
Yeah,
what
perfect.
other villages are doing. Yeah, Dave?
My interest is more on the whole village than subdividing.
Yes,
Subdividing
I
it
agree.
would be a beast
Yeah,
of an administrative
I agree.
problem.
We don't know that, I just
Okay.
want you to look at it, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this is just simply research. Because
I'm looking at it overall as
a village too, but let's,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
while we're in there, let's get the ball rolling.
It would be nice to know how do they delineate between commercial and residential, and if
Yep.
it's a requirement of all or some, and how you impose that.
Commercial was different,
I
commercial
think
was,
commercial we wouldn't even include.
you wouldn't include.
Yeah,
I
yeah, you
just-
would include.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
My concern, just so the board's aware, is you're putting the village into the garbage business. So it's another aspect.
Well, that's something to research.
That's
What
what I'm
does that
saying.
look
That's
like?
why I have to look at it, because how much of an impact is it on labor? How much impact is it on taxes? It's a
Yeah,
total,
well,
we got to look at the whole piece.
okay.
I think the
I
key here
agree.
is you got a lot of trucks running around, and that's
Oh, it's
pollution, it's
annoying.
noise.
I
It's
know.
And if
ugly.
you look at the cost
I know.
on roads, right, big trucks running through roads consistently, wear and tear, are roads gonna last longer if you're only doing one truck, not multiple?
I don't disagree, just want to get the numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we understand, I think, the reasons why we want to look at it. I mean, I think everybody kind of gets that, but it's just, what does that look like for us to take it on with the
Yep.
resources that we have
Yep.
as a village? So,
So
Thank you,
next
Rob.
meeting,
okay. And thanks for
meeting,
bringing
yes,
that
Yes,
forward.
thank you.
Next
Yep.
full month meeting
Yes,
is fine.
the next full month, not
All
Monday.
good.
No, I meant August.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Dorothea.
No,
And if
not
there's
on
anything I can do, Katie will be happy.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, and thank them for bringing it back to the board. Okay, so let's see, next up, member items.
Did you want to go back to agenda item
Oh.
1 in the minutes?
Oh, the minutes. We left up the
I didn't see
minutes.
minutes on here.
We will need you for an executive session. Yeah, about a DPW matter.
Can we do that sooner rather than later?
Pardon me?
Could we do it sooner rather than later?
Yeah, we can go
I
to
think
session.
this will be done in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. It's only just a couple, it's like quick.
Hey, send them in the packet.
Yeah.
Minutes.
What?
I know. Yeah, famous last word.
I'll try to be really good on
I know, come on, let's move
Several
along.
hours later.
Will you hear the act?
Not me.
We're moving along.
Let me have my top sheet. All right.
All
All right,
Thank you.
Okay,
we're getting caught up. You're going to see a bunch of minutes in August.
Oh,
I'm
my.
working with Alexander.
I would
I can't even
say.
say.
what, are you okay? You all right?
Look how old that is.
It's okay. We're gonna get through it. I know.
I'm sorry.
Lily, fire walk with me.
I looked at the names, I was,
I know. Okay.
Okay,
We're getting
enough.
caught up.
I'm
Let's
recovered.
see, wait a minute, I've got to get up to the top of the thing.
And you might not be able to approve March 23rd, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it depends who was, let's
Is
see.
it the three of you? I'm not sure.
It looks that way.
Yeah, I think you can. Okay, did you want to just
Yeah,
give
you can
your,
do March
You
23rd.
don't have minutes.
did you want to just give your update on Randy?
Oh, real quick on the Rand update. This is all this is. There's a couple neighbors. This is the portion of Rand between Jeff Road and Locust, or St. Louis. Okay. They have really been noticing, especially when NISTOT was doing all the work, everybody's now cutting through to avoid the Jefferson Road light, and they're speeding. And so first they said, can we look at a speed bump? Can we do something like that, do the speed humps? And I said, well, I just want to bring this to the board just to let you guys know. We actually have a speed hump policy and a little petition that's online. So I sent that to the neighbor, and then he said, started talking with his neighbor. He said, well, speed humps are kind of noisy. What about, lowering the speed limit? And that was already lowered 9 years ago by the previous board. And it was lowered to 15 miles an hour for St. Louis to be a school zone designated in our village. And the signage we're going to put up. The signage needs to go up, so we can at least start with that. And I'm just giving you the update because we're going to get the signage in place. We maybe put slow school zone, stencil it on the road, so there's another visual cue. If there were to be a speed bump, it may go down closer to the Jeff Road area because they have people shooting across Rand Extension and then zipping down. I've seen it. I mean, I'm over there all the time. I walk all through there. So I just wanted to give you the update and also let you know, we'll send the link out to you guys. It's actually on our website. So you see there's a speed hump policy that we have, with a little petition that neighbors can sign. So anyway, that's just the update. We're going to start with that. We'll get the signage out, stencils on the road. Already got back with a neighbor just prior to the meeting. They're really happy with that. They said, great, at least it's a little bit of, let's see if that helps. So that's where we are. Okay, that's my update. I made it as quick as I could possibly make it. Okay, minutes.
March 23rd, any questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 23rd.
Second.
So moved, roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe, we're probably going to
Abstain? It would be
abstain. I can't even think of the right
Yeah.
word. Trustee Marshall, I'm going to say the same thing. Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next up.
April 13th. Any changes, concerns?
Anybody? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 13th.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe, I think you need to
Abstain.
abstain. Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lincoln.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, done?
Done.
There we go.
Wow, Zach, what do you think of that?
That was 2
Geez,
minutes.
spoke too soon.
Told you. I know how to go.
Okay, so executive session.
Do you want to do that and come back for member?
Are there any big member items?
Big member items?
Like,
I had one member item that I
Okay.
really wanted to talk about, which was
like one quick one?
salt. And
Salt.
Salt.
Already we're salt? We're in summer.
Could you tell me the difference between using dog-friendly salt and non-dog-friendly salt and cost? Huh?
Streets, sidewalks.
For the sidewalks.
Sidewalks, we don't sell. We do the curb ramp, so we do use a pet-friendly,
Yeah, we
but
always
it's
do.
it's friendlier, I should say. Because it's concrete, you can't use straight salt. Straight salt will deteriorate concrete a lot faster, so you have to use an ice and melt.
So I've had multiple residents just ask me about salt and dog-friendly. I don't have dogs, I don't know these answers. I just want to put it out
The
there.
sidewalks are salted by property owners. Yep.
No.
So we don't do mass.
We don't do sidewalks.
We don't do mass salting on the sidewalks, just the curb ramps that would lead down to crosswalks.
Like Four Corners curb ramps, to give you an
Got it.
idea.
And every winter, like just before winter hits, I always ask that, a notice go out to
Yep.
tell dog owners to protect their dog's feet,
Yeah.
because nothing is going to really keep their feet, the pads from cracking.
Sure. What's, we don't have any requirements on the types of salt people use. Do we recommend people use salt on
Ice
their
and
sidewalks?
nuts. I would recommend ice.
I use, what is it, something pause, I can't think of what it's, safe
I've
pause
never
or
done
something.
I don't use any of it.
I do on my.
And I'm gonna make
Better
sure.
off not using it,
I
honestly.
think I do.
Yeah, because, I
Do
mean,
we encourage or not encourage residents to salt their sidewalks?
I don't encourage.
I know the church does a lot.
You do or not?
Oh, yeah, the church.
Church covers their sidewalks.
Okay, well,
But I mean,
let's-
if there's an issue that seems to be, that someone could get hurt, if it's a safety issue, then we have to do something.
Can we bring that back in December?
Yeah, well,
Well,
no,
maybe
well,
not.
purchase of salt probably happens in 2 months.
No, no, no,
So,
no.
anyway, that's it, that's all I got.
Okay,
All right.
okay, real quick, keep it moving. Anything? I have nothing.
One more, huh?
Oh, you only said you had one.
I lied. The speed humps down on the road that we talked about
Mhm.
before, those are pretty aggressive. I know when I was in the meeting, I figured, hey, these are legal speed humps.
Yeah.
So why do we have an issue with it? And then I went on the road with the speed humps, and I had to get down to about 5 or 10.
That's the intent.
Yeah, which is good,
That is the intent.
because that one
The
over on
speed
Mountain
limit
should
is
be a
higher.
car.
So here's the question. This is just the question, which is, if the speed limit on a road is X, call it 20 or 15 or 30, and we really want people to go 5, do we just make the speed limit 5?
Nope.
Or do you keep the speed humps in and that's the route to take?
Jeff shaking his
Here,
head.
You can't go.
You can't
You can go below that.
But you can put a speed hump in, that basically effectively makes it
Yeah.
that.
Just in that one area, though.
Okay, have we had, has anybody?
Under New York State
Yes,
law,
I did.
we can only go down to 25 miles an hour.
But they'll let us have the humps in.
Yes,
And yes, I went at a hump and it is dangerous, but boy, I do only go 5.
I do. I'm fine with
Because
that.
Is it
Killer.
possible
I've had neighbors stop
to,
me on-
because I bike on the road some, is it possible, and people with, I have a small Vespa, and the wheels are that big, and it is, like, basically you can't go on the road. Is it possible to have a brake on a single side? For both bicyclists and
So
motorists?
they come in determined.
6 feet or 5 feet?
Right.
I think these ones might be 5 feet.
Can you get like a 3-foot one and have a 3-foot gap?
They make
Can you get a
ends, they
chainsaw?
make ends, then they make the regular.
Yeah.
So the ends would be like a tapered cap that, would terminate the
Yeah.
speed hump down to a curb or to the shoulder of the road. Or you would have to remove a full section. And they don't make 3 foot. I mean, they're matched.
Let's ponder that. Okay, I don't need an answer today. Let's just ponder it as a group. Because I think for bicyclists and motorcyclists, there's a risk
Yeah, I hear you.
here.
It's-
I mean, take your bike on that and travel around on a
Yeah.
street bike and hit that, right? And if you start hitting that on Rand, or, we have a speed hump policy, great. So we have a lot of these, but it'd be nice to have.
Maybe
that.
look into.
I mean, if you want, what we could do is remove
One section.
the ends. So, that'd be closest to the shoulder.
Right.
You wouldn't want.
Either one side or the
That would be
other.
fine
Right.
for bicyclists.
I-
Yeah, you
What
don't
I'd
want to
rather do
bike
is
hills.
remove the end and then take one section and push it that way.
So there's only one side that would be
Maybe
open.
you guys can sort this
Anyway.
out.
Yeah, that's
Think
good.
about it,
Yeah.
maybe come back with an idea. I don't know
Okay.
enough to know anything other than to say, I think something different could be.
Well, it all depends on what we're trying to accommodate.
Let bikes and,
Traffic calming and safety for everybody. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
okay.
Okay, so, right? Okay. Okay. I make a motion, oh,
I have a request from Mr. Pierce, possible opportunity for a brief general public comment question this evening.
sure.
What is that?
We had public comment at the beginning, maybe he missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Pierce, you're allowed to speak?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, and yes, I did. Sorry, I missed the public comment at the very beginning. I'd like to first compliment Zach and his staff, DPW in general, for jumping on yet another issue on State Street where Water Authority failed to bring up the pavement grade on State Street, as well as the bike lane, and resulting in a lot of crashing of trucks, noise running over, and not to mention cars too. He will say, they mentioned he got out there immediately on a weekend and got the village cones out there and greatly appreciated. I know he's pursuing with the Water Authority and or their contractor to bring that up to a safe grade and a proper grade on a newly constructed road. That leads into the point about the board had mentioned several times different public hearings, the concerns, as well as obviously Zach's concerns about the less than ideal standards of the DPW facilities. And with that, and that's where at the very beginning, and I missed that point about getting in, and I wanted to comment about the budget. And I would ask that the village board and the trustees seriously consider taking the facilities of the DPW to one of the top priorities, even if necessary, to place the new sidewalks, which I would imagine would, and I don't know what the budget number is, but I imagine it's tens of thousands of dollars between consultants, construction, et cetera, depending on the breadth and scope of that work. Would that be pushed down and the focus be and bring the prioritization of the DPW facilities, even if it's not, well before all the site development design and dealing with the Arboretum / DPW, to focus on bringing those facilities up to appropriate standards, quite frankly. And I think that should be a priority. Number one, especially with consideration and recognition by the village trustees of the value of the DPW staff and what they provide to the village. Thanks.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Art. Thanks for that feedback. Okay. How are we online?
We're done online.
Okay. I make a motion, we go into executive session for purposes of discussing an employee.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yep, no,
Oh, writing it down, sorry.
I'm writing it down.
And
Trustee
here.
Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yep. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to do it?
Yep.
I make a motion to stop executive session or come out of executive session. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call,
Trustee
please.
Marshall. Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Lots of good discussions tonight.